Well, here we are again, and I am so sorry, but I will have to do another Love Island video. It just simply must be done. And I swear I am not going to only do Love Island videos forever, I swear. But the early seasons are so good. They're like time capsules into those years. They're so real and sometimes very rough, but also charming. You can tell that social media had not been around long enough to make a true impact on them, at least like not in the way that it has now made an impact on me and other people my age, and I guess them now too. But this was a time when they were truly free. Social media was just for fun. I'm sure some influencers existed, but it was just the beginning. Just the beginning. So they didn't all look alike. They didn't all have Instagram face. They didn't all do their makeup perfectly or the same. But it's really refreshing that they're regular hot. They're not hot like they were made by AI, you know? And I think that that is like 10,000 times better. I will take a stand on that. Regular hot is better than AI hot. And Mina Lay said it, and therefore I've been preaching it as gospel to everybody that I see. I really, really think that imperfections are going to become beautiful in a big way because in a world of AI, how else will you know that anybody's real? So I really think imperfections are going to become really trendy and unique faces are going to become really trendy. I hope that that trend is one that isn't a trend and just sticks around. We hope and we pray. And that's all we can do. And as long as I'm mentioning Mina, here is a ton of other content creators that are really, despite the age of social media brain rot, making really good quality content that I love. I am a viewer first and a content creator second. I need my daily dose of content at all times, like an IV to the veins. So I recommend watching them, but let's get on with the video. Anyways, the other amazing thing about these people is that for the most part, they do not care at all what anybody thinks of them. At all. They are painfully lacking in media training. And after just like 2 drinks into their system, blissfully unaware that the entire nation is watching them and judging them. It's really beautiful, guys. It's really beautiful. Messy, problematic, but beautiful. Before I get into everything, here are some quick disclaimers because y'all know I have to cover my ass. I'm the daughter of lawyers. I must do this. First of all, this is obviously going to be full of opinions that are mine and mine alone, although they are subject to change. Hey, I may change over time. If you comment something, you might change my mind. Probably not, but it's possible, okay? Anyways, I am a constant evolution, and we can't hold me to every opinion that I've ever had. Second of all, everybody featured in this video, including but not limited to myself, are honest to God human beings, which means that they will have flaws. Some of them may be pretty morally gray characters, and almost all of them will certainly be chaotic ones. And that is just something that you have to accept from the outset as a prerequisite to viewing. And lastly, at this time, I am not at all interested in being serious because everything around me and in my life is extremely serious, as I'm sure it is in yours. So just respect that this is light and easy viewing. This is a giggle. This is a kiki. We're having a good time. We're examining a piece of media that is old and chaotic and fun, and that is beautiful, and we are doing that. The concept of Love Island is basically this. Couple up, compete in challenges, go on dates, fall in love, ideally, but probably not. More likely, fight, gossip, drink heavily, smoke heavily, make friends, make love, all the primal human instincts. They all exist in this show. If you're single and not in a couple, you are vulnerable. You are at risk of being dumped from the island. If you are in a couple, you're still vulnerable to being dumped, but really only via voting. And that voting could be by the public or your fellow islanders. At the end, the public votes for one couple to win the show, and that couple then has to decide love or money with a cash prize. I will get to that at the end. It's not that important though, because all of them have some degree of fame afterwards anyways. There are no phones except to talk to production, but there are lots of hot people who rarely wear much clothing and definitely all have very big egos. And there's very little to do. There's very little alone time, and there is endless alcohol. So I'm sure you can imagine what ensues. Normally, I have an energy drink, but today, to celebrate the British, I have a cup of tea. And also because it's like 7 p.m., So we really couldn't be doing an energy drink. Heading right into episode 1, we first meet all of these 6 hunks. I don't necessarily think they're all hunks, but the British nation has deemed them as such, so they are hunks. We have Chris. Chris is 27 and a club promoter, and Chris is a generally good guy. For the most part, he is somewhat cringy, mainly because he cannot stop wearing fedoras and bow ties. The man is plunged deep into the hipster agenda, but you know what? We have to accept that. Next, we have Josh. Josh is 21 and he works with his father as a joiner. I don't really know what a joiner is. I gather that it has something to do with cutting wood, but it's unclear. And it doesn't really seem like he knows what it is either because he says he does basically nothing. I don't really like Josh very much. Josh is kind of a tool. However, he does provide us with a lot of entertainment, so I have to appreciate him for that bit, but he's a tool. Next, we have Omar. Omar is 22 and he is currently unemployed and gambling. What a catch! But don't worry, ladies, because he's now an employee of Love Island, so it's all good. Omar, though, is desperately cringy. He's desperate in more ways than one, but desperately cringy is definitely one of them. He is that crypto guy that you really are fingers crossed he won't talk to you at the bar. He does not know how to talk to women. He doesn't know how to comport himself in any way that could be possibly appealing to women, but he is on paper attractive, so they've let him onto the show. I will say that once he undergoes ego death on this season, he does become like funny and honestly a little bit endearing, but it does take some time. And that time it's a hard time for us all. We also have Lewis. Lewis is 20 and he is a former professional soccer player, or as they call it, football. And he is now an event promoter? Question mark? It's kind of unclear. He says he lives a lavish lifestyle, but he doesn't really elaborate on how he does that. Next, we have John. John is 25 and he's a builder, but admittedly not very good at it. He is also confidently serving dad bod because he backs his personality. And he is kind of funny. He has some really funny moments. He has some really good moments. He also has some really, really miserable bad moments that I personally hate. So I'm mixed on John. And finally, we have Jordan. Jordan is a whopping 31 years of age. Ancient for Love Island. Ancient. He is also humongous and super swole, which is why they call him the Hulk. But he also works as a ground worker. What does that mean? Couldn't tell you. And he is our resident alt boy. He has some gauges. He has lots of edgy tattoos. He also broke up with his girlfriend 2 weeks ago. However, I do kind of like Jordan. He's a pretty good guy as far as they go. As far as they go on this show, I should say. This is a group of men with zero decorum. When the host Caroline walks in, they all start catcalling her and tell her to put on a bikini. Right. So what if instead of that, I hit you with my pocket taser? I think actually this entire group of men they're probably all good candidates for my taser. But I'm sure the girls will love them. So let's bring them in. If you don't know how this process works, basically all of these boys will be standing in a line. As each girl enters, they will step forward if they're interested in her. Then the girl gets to pick. She can choose one of the boys who stepped forward for her, one of the boys who didn't step forward for her, ones who are already in couples. Doesn't matter. Anybody she wants. But just because she picks a boy doesn't mean that they can't step forward for other girls and get chosen. It's a messy process, but we get there. First, we have Hannah. Hannah is 25 and a Playboy bunny. She is serving Jane Mansfield and 80s Barbie realness at all times. And I love Hannah. I think she is wonderful and she deserves the world. When Hannah comes in, John is stepping forward with a quickness. He is immediately addicted and obsessed with her. Chris also steps forward, but she chooses John. And now they don't tell you this until the end of the show, but my video, my order of events. John and Hannah have actually met before. Apparently he hooked up with her friend on a night out, and they do run in the same circles, but they've never been properly introduced, so there's no manipulation of the system going on. They just were aware of each other. The next girl to enter the villa is Danielle. She works in marketing, she loves to party, and she is very posh. She is Hall & Oates' rich girl. When she comes in, Omar goes, "Oh, here she is." And she must have sensed that creep energy even if she didn't hear that comment, because she does choose Lewis over him when they both step forward. The next girl to enter the villa is Scout. Scout is my dog, and she's sweet, and I love her. The actual next girl to enter the villa is Rachel. Rachel is a full-time mom, but leaving her son to go on Love Island. Hey, I don't know. She said she'd miss him, and she's got to hustle too, and she does know how, okay? She is the first Black Miss England. Yes, it seems that Zara season 2, Miss GB, had a blueprint, except Rachel does not constantly mention her title. Rachel is a humble queen, very down to earth, knows what she wants, and unfortunately, that's not somebody who would ever walk into this villa. Lewis is the only one who steps forward for Rachel, abandoning Danielle, who he just coupled up with. And even though that definitely seems like a red flag, Rachel picks him. So Danielle is now single again, and we will get back to her. Next in, we have Zoe. Zoe is 24. She's a model and also a born-again Christian, which is a very fun twist for a show that definitely doesn't seem like the place where a born-again Christian would want to go. Zoe is giving hot bi girl energy, and none of these men are good enough for her. We know that, but Lewis tries his luck anyways. Yes, same Lewis. These 3 girls, same Lewis. It's his second swap, but he's the only one that steps forward for her, so she does choose him. And normally I would say I get it, because let's be real, I would never in a million years choose a man who didn't step forward for me. But in this very specific scenario, I might just do it, just to deflate his ego a bit. But not Zoe. She goes ahead and chooses Lewis, even though she knows that she probably made a bad choice and admits that. So Rachel and Danielle, single, we're getting back to them. Next girl to join us is Lauren. Lauren is 26 and she's a community sports officer. Lauren's whole thing is that she is the girl who broke up One Direction. Of course, she's not. She's not what broke up One Direction. If I had to guess, I would say what broke up One Direction is catapulting young boys into stardom from average lives and then completely overworking them and kind of pitting them against each other. That's a whole separate video, and I think I've actually made that video. I'll link it here if I have. Anyways, from what I recall, there was rumors that Zayn had cheated on his longtime girlfriend and I think fiance at the time, Perry. And Lauren had taken a photo with Zayn in the same location and around the same time as this cheating allegedly took place. So then, internet sleuths set a mob of teens on her and made her life hell. But she didn't hook up with Zayn. So it's all just a fun story. And I respect Lauren because the face that she makes when she enters the villa and starts surveying these men, she wants nothing to do with them. Nothing. Unfortunately, though, the feeling is mutual, and none of the boys step forward for her. So it's a sad moment for Lauren. She is really uncomfortable, but she has to pick someone anyways, so she chooses Jordan. And it gets even worse for Lauren because that unfortunate situation is directly juxtaposed by the arrival of our final girl, Jess. Jess is 22. She's a glamour model. And every single man that you see above my head right now, except John, who, as I said, is addicted and obsessed with Hannah, every other man steps forward for Jess. With haste. With quickness and haste. They are giggling and kicking their feet over this girl. She is a hot mess and she holds so much power. Truly our resident brat. I love her. Is she perfect? No. I never said that. Never said she was perfect. She's going to do some questionable stuff. But this is my girl. And she chose Jordan. So now Lauren and the fools who picked Lewis are now on the subs bench and they get to choose from the remaining boys. So Danielle picks Chris, Rachel picks Omar, and that leaves Lauren with Josh. And I was a little confused. Why are we not picking Josh, ladies? It's 2015 and he looks like a member of a boy band. But I appreciate that they are subverting expectations. I really do. As you can see, all of our couples are now up on the wall, and I always do these little miniatures so we have a little record of who everybody has coupled up with. It's day one, immediately after coupling up, and everybody is already gossiping about how Lauren supposedly slept with Zane, so she has to clear up all of that real quick. Unfortunately, Lauren is suffering and will continue to, spoiler alert, because none of the guys are into her, and they are not hiding it at all. Like, picture this. You're in middle school, hanging out with your girls, you're probably at like the school gym or the baseball fields or some other, like, I don't know, where middle schoolers hang out. And there's a group of boys over yonder, and they are snickering. They're hee-heeing, they're ha-haing, and they start coming up to y'all. And you know instantly, because you're a smart girl, that they are into your friends, but not you. Explicitly not into you at all. In fact, you're pretty certain that you may have been the subject of the hee-hees and the ha-has and the little nudges because perhaps comments of a slanderous nature were being said against you. But you're going to have to continue to socialize with these little fuckers because your friends like them and they're completely oblivious to the situation that's happening. And also, like, you're in middle school and you're powerless and everything hurts and you're cripplingly insecure. So, like, what's another minute with some people who definitely hate you? At some point, one of these boys is going to ask you out. And you are going to foolishly say yes. Because again, middle school, powerless, cripplingly insecure. And then you'll discover that it was all just a joke to make fun of you. And you'll pretend like you were in on the bit, but they'll all know that that wasn't true. Okay? We've got that image in our head, right? I'm sure I've just brought something up for some of you. Hey, I'm right there with you. I am right there with you. And I'm sorry that that happened to you. That's kind of the energy that Lauren is being met with at this time in the villa. Was that more vivid of a description than was necessary? Some might say it is. I'm a storyteller. And was that story perhaps inspired by real events that I wish I could lobotomize from my brain? Some might say. And guys, I cannot even make this up. The boys do congregate around and start playing FMK, or as they call it, Shag, Marry, Avoid. Fun rename idea for this series. Let's instead call it Middle School Trauma Island. Because the way I want to take an ice pick to the brain, as I said. But moving swiftly along, at night, they are getting to know each other and they're drinking. Rachel is having none of Omar, which is fair because he's annoying and cocky at this point. Zoe is getting along with Lewis, but it's pretty clear already that they're besties, not lovers. Whereas John and Hannah are fully falling in love, and Jess, who stole Lauren's man, if you recall, is now thinking, maybe her and Lauren should swap. In the morning, Hannah reveals to all of the Islanders her Playboy bunny status, but she does reassure us that Heth was not capable of doing anything with her. Not that she would be interested, for the record. I'd say RIP to Hef, but I think it's worse to switch up on the dead than speak ill of them. If you want to watch my Playboy series, though, it is up on my channel. It was my first, so, like, it's not stellar in quality, but it's near and dear to my heart. And obviously very interesting. Anyways, then they play a getting to know you game. None of it is relevant, but I will say, based on what I heard, I hope and pray to God that every single one of them got tested before going on this show. I really do. Jess and Jordan do win this game, so they get the power to swap one couple. And isn't that lucky? Because Jess was just saying how she kind of wanted to swap. Luckily, Jordan is not a total idiot, so he does see this coming, but Jess does not lock it down completely until she confirms that Josh is into her, and then she breaks the news to him and the rest of the group. But Jordan is very clear in letting everybody know that he is not pleased with this decision. So Lauren does go ahead and cry privately. Let it out, girl. Let it out. Got them swapped? Okay. At night, they party. Jess and Josh kiss, and they are very flirty vibes. And John, who is usually Mr. Chatty, gift of the gab, is struggling to get the words out to ask Hannah if she is interested in him because he needs this woman like he needs the air he breathes. She is his Pookie. And thank God she says yes, she is interested, because honestly, I fear this man would need a panic room if she had said no. I will say though, in his interview, he says that a woman should not have control over the credit cards, the groceries, or the children, but she should always think that she has control over the relationship. And at first, I was very offended, and I kind of still am. But then I thought, wait a second, is he offering to take care of all of the financials, all of the chores, and all of the childcare? Because in that case, I think I might be able to hear him out. But it still reeks of misogyny, so I'm on the fence there. As I said, mixed feelings on John. In the morning, Jordan is now considering his options, because he didn't really want any of the other girls. He wanted Jess, but Jess wanted Josh. So Jordan is mopey today. Then the girls play a little game where they mix and match features of the boys with paper doll replicas of them. Every boy gets chosen for something except Omar. And I was going to feel bad for him. I really was. But then in his interview, he was like, I don't care. No, it's all fun and games. But then he breaks character for a second and stares into the camera like he's about to punch a hole in the drywall. So my sympathy evaporated at that point. John and Hannah go on a date, and it goes really well. And then they get texts from 2 new male bombshells who will be arriving shortly. And Josh goes ahead and sends them a little reply, because in addition to being able to text the producers, they can also text each other. But like, why would they need to? They're all in person. However, it does work if you want to text a bombshell and say something really nasty, which is what Josh does. And we will find out what that is later. Meanwhile, Zoe is being very forward and letting Jordan know right up front she's interested in him. That's her type on paper, babe. That's my type on paper. Yeah. But I hated that I did that. We're moving on. Anyways, Jordan doesn't reciprocate. He's not really feeling that at all. So he just kind of laughs it off. It's a tough one for her. And then the night comes, and we have new bombshells, the first of the season. I had to shift the camera down so that you could see the twins properly. John and Tony. Which one's John? Which one's Tony? You can ask me any day of the week. I'm going to tell you a different answer. I don't know. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're Italian twins, and they don't mention any type of employment. So I assume that's their full-time job. It doesn't matter because they don't have to pay rent since they live with their mom. There's nothing wrong with living with your parents. But there is something wrong with acting like a petulant, insecure child, which is how they act for the duration of the show. And they choose Danielle and Jess for their date in the Hideaway. And the Hideaway is like a secret little apartment within the house that has a hot tub and a patio. And they always have like champagne and stuff. And a bed. So if you want to spend the night with the person that you're on a date with, you have that option to not stay in the communal bedroom. It makes it a lot more appealing to cheat on your partner, which I think is what the producers were aiming for. And when they go, Josh and Chris are immediately shitting themselves, but they're pretending like they are very confident and chill. It's very classic behavior that we will see time and time again. And to be honest, Chris did himself zero favors, because he is dressed like somebody who has a mustache tattoo on their finger. He's wearing like a short-sleeved button down with a bow tie. It's buttoned all the way to the top to choke him out, which I wish it would so that we didn't have to see this anymore. A bow tie, a fedora, ripped skinny jeans that are just there as tight as they could possibly be on those legs. He went for the full effect. If I didn't know that it was 2015, I would have thought he was doing a bit. Genuinely. It's truly heinous, and I would not be surprised if Danielle wanted to leave him. I'm sorry, but it's true. Luckily for Chris, the Italian twins are also bozos. Not that that's stopping the girls from flirting with them. It is not, especially not Jess. Jess is doing most of the flirting. In fact, Danielle's is like kind of really boring. So we're getting alternating clips of her absolute snooze fest of a date, and then Jess's, which is a hot mess, just like her. And I am going to have to give you a play-by-play on this. And I'm so serious right now. Lock in right now. This situation will later be hotly debated. So whatever you're doing, stop doing it. Chores, work. I need all of your attention right now. You need the details so that you're aware of it later on. It's very important. What could be more important? Nothing. So they're in this little apartment. He's sitting on the bed, Jess is making sure that not a single drop of champagne is left in the bottle by the time that they exit. She is laying on the bed in the style of PMLOO paint me like one of your French girls. She's giggling, she's flirting, and at some point, she turns the corner into sloppy territory. If I had to guess, I would say it's when she starts drinking the champagne straight from the bottle instead of pouring it into a glass. Um, that's just if I had to guess. And still, she is flirting. She is giggling like she's in the beginning of an adult film. Okay, that's the kind of giggle she's. It's not like the kind of giggle you might hear me give in this video. It's a whole different thing altogether. And then the Italian twin stands up to pour himself some more champagne. This is the second bottle because she's drinking straight from the first. He looks at her and he's like, why are you staring at my crotch? And she says, I don't know. I can't help it. I was just having a look. He then asks if she's horny, to which she replies, me? Do you think I'm horny? And he says that all girls are horny around him, which isn't true. But anyways, she doesn't say whether she is or not, but she does talk about fanny flutters and how that's essential to being a match, which is true. But it's weird that she brought it up then. But her Italian is not at all impressed by this reference. He's looking for a classy girl, not hot mess Jess. Oh, a girl who knows about body parts and what they do. God forbid. She is being a hot mess, though. Okay. So when they get a text that Jess can either stay with him in the hideaway or go back up to Josh in the communal bedroom, he's honestly ready for her to GTFO. Meanwhile, she's rolling on the bed, fully drunk, and is saying, oh, I hate this. I don't know if I want to go back up. But he tells her, go back to Josh. At which point she does get a little bit bitter and she says, well, I don't think you like me anyways. I get that vibe off you. Do you really? Yeah. Why? I just do. Then she says, I'm going to, and he says Mad Libs time. It is Mad Libs time. Let me complete that sentence. I'd go sleep with Josh. But he does also add, if you want to go, it's up to you. The bitterness is growing at this point, and she's like, OMG, did you just tell me to go sleep with him? And he says, no, I didn't say that. But he did. He did, and she knows it, and we know it. So she says, fine, I'm going back up. But then she turns back around and says, I'm just looking at you now and getting a little temptation. Hell, do I stay in here? Do I not? Just don't look at me because I think you're attractive in that, you know? But I've made my decision now. I can't go back on it, even though I am pretty tempted. And during that whole monologue, he is just sitting on the bed. He's sitting on the bed like Miss New York in Flavor of Love. He has the ick so bad. So ultimately, she goes back to Josh, which makes Josh happy. The Italian's happy. She's happy. Win, win, win. But remember this scene, which I will be referring to as the Italian hideaway fiasco from now on. Oh, and by the way, Danielle's date is also a bust. Just awkward on both ends. Sparks are at 0%. So she goes back up to Chris. I think that that's sending him the wrong message, that the fedora and the bow tie works, but good for Chris, he's happy. The next morning, the twins are introduced to the rest of the villa, but their main priority is finding out who was cyberbullying them before they entered. And Josh is happy to claim that trophy. He really is. And so at this point, I can tell you what he texted them. So he says, don't you dare f with my girlfriend. All mine. Wait till you're in the villa. Girlfriend reveal on day 3. Not really. He's just cyberbullying them. He's just cyberbullying them. And cyberbullying, not funny, by the way. Not at all. That movie with Emily Osment, it's serious. I'm sure I cried when I saw it. But this is so different, and it's funny. I'm sorry, it's funny. And Josh claims that he partially sent this because he heard rumors that the twins weren't going to make an effort with the boys. But like, where would he have heard that? Who would have told him that? But the twins are not stopping there with the drama. No, because they make it very clear that from their perspective, they were doing the pieing last night. They were rejecting the girls, not the other way around. At least when Danielle is like, no, that's definitely false. Her Italian does concede that it was probably more mutual between them, but just as Italian is not going to give her that gift. He is adamant that she wanted to stay and he made her go. And she is pissed. Pissed. Because that's not how she saw it. But unfortunately, that is how the rest of us saw it. It is. Sometimes we remember wrong. It happens. But he's right. He is right. And Josh is suspicious. But luckily, John smooths things over between the twins and the rest of the villa. At least for now. But then we get a text. Dumping in 2 days. Lady's choice. I'm the lady's choice. And so what if I sing that in every single video? What are you going to do? Some of you may not have Link Larkin going through your mind once a day. Seaweed going through your mind once a day. John Travolta in drag going through your mind once a day. We're different, and that's fine. They get a text that they have to pick 2 girls to go on dates with the Italians. Lauren is like, absolutely not. I want nothing to do with them, just like the rest of this men in the villa. And she is so right for that. So instead, they go with Rachel and Zoe. So they go and present that information to the boys. And while they're there, Just does some more bickering with her Italian about who pied who. Her pride is convincing her to keep being really pissed and bringing it up and denying it. But it's just making it more clear. It's just making it all the more abundantly clear that he dumped her. But anyways, Jordan is happy as a clam that Lauren is not going on the date. He just bought himself a few more days in the villa. And for that, he offers her a high five, which is, it's truly Lauren's last straw. She's done being laughed at, and she tells him that. She says, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of a high five. We're not going to have this cute moment because you make zero effort with me, and you're so obvious about not liking me. He does pull her aside after that and apologizes and says that he really was just trying to offer friendship with that high five. But I don't know about all that. I think that he literally just realized that she's a human being with feelings. And it makes him feel so guilty that he cries. And he probably should. It does humanize him for Lauren too, I guess. So they make up and they're buddies now. Omar and Lewis are also gifted dates with Rachel and Zoe so that they can try and prove themselves, even though they've had days to do so. And they've done diddly squat. But here's another chance. Lewis is ready to convince Zoe that they would make a much better couple, even though he doesn't like her, and he's made that very clear. On the other hand, Omar has zero interest in putting in any effort whatsoever because he doesn't want to look desperate. But Omar, you are desperate. And the boys help him realize that, so he does decide to try. Arguably too much. He is doing nude butler. Bitter, threatened, desperate nude butler. His worst look yet. The Italians are desperate too, though. Zoe's date goes pretty well because they actually have some things in common. And he's Catholic and he goes to church. So that's really appealing to her. Rachel's Italian date, not so much, because she sees straight through his bullshit and she calls him out on every single line of it. I love Miss Rachel. I really do. Rachel and Omar's date is different, but similar. Omar is being more real, but Rachel's just like, ugh. You're all losers. Lewis decides to go the route of playing pretend on his date with Zoe because he knows that she likes him and she will love to hear about how maybe, potentially, perhaps something could eventually happen with them. It won't, but she likes to hear it. Zoe does get a brief reality check from Rachel afterwards, though, because Rachel is real. And she's like, it's unlikely, girl. It's really unlikely. So, both of them choose the Italians. For the night, this is not a final decision. They're just trying them on for size. The return window has not closed. And Zoe tells Lewis, like, yeah, I can tell that you're forcing it, and I really don't want that for either of us. And she says it so nicely. But he's still pretty bitter because he feels mugged off. AKA, like, she did him dirty. She made him look a fool. She rejected him. It's kind of a catch-all phrase, but he's upset. But, like, did he not already do that to her? But he does have another shot, though, with Danielle. She tells him that she's been trying with Chris. She's been trying, but there's just nothing. And she likes Lewis a lot more, which I can understand that. It was only a matter of time. With the bow tie and the fedora combo, it really was only a matter of time. And she thinks perhaps Lauren might like Chris. I think perhaps she's just trying to make herself feel better, but sure, let's toss Lauren wherever, no worries. In the morning, with the dumping fast approaching, the boys are in desperate times. Not all of the boys. Lewis and Omar are in desperate times. It turns out Chris is completely fine with Danielle slipping through his fingers. The lack of connection was mutual. And Jordan is pretty confident that Lauren will stick by him. Why, I couldn't tell you, but he's actually been kind of digging Zoe recently. So Chris and Jordan decide to cook up a little plan. Basically, since they foresee Danielle choosing Lewis, Jordan is going to try and swoop in and woo Zoe away from the Italians, and then he will drop Lauren straight into Chris's desperate arms. And what will Omar do? That's his problem. They do end up telling the rest of the OG boys about their plan because they have to be a united front, like their grandfathers. If they want to defeat the Italians, they need to be a united front. Are World War II jokes okay now? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I thought it was funny. Anyways, Jordan lets Zoe know that he's interested, and she is absolutely thrilled, but she does play it cool. But that wasn't exactly the result the boys were after, so at lunch, when all the original Islanders are in the kitchen and the Italians are kind of keeping to themselves nearby at a table, they can clearly hear them, by the way, but they are keeping to themselves. John does a little poll to see if everybody ships Jordan and Zoe, and it is a resounding yes. Except Lauren, who was not CC'd on these updates and is now in tears again because she is being embarrassed constantly. They all immediately apologize because they weren't aware that Zoe hadn't had a chance to tell Lauren in private before they went around screaming about it. But it's never too late. So Zoe and Lauren do have that talk, and Lauren is fine with it. She's like, no worries. I was going to be with them platonically no matter who I was with because they've all friend-zoned me, so who cares which one it is? Unfortunately, that now leaves her in the arena with the Italians and Chris and Omar, who are all prepared to rip her limb from limb in order to stay on this island. But at least the boys try to cheer her up by singing her a nice song. Well, I didn't find it nice, but she did, so. And Zoe then confirms with her Italian, whichever one of them it is, that she will be choosing Mr. Jordan, the Hulk, and he's fine with it. The Italian is fine, but he does warn her that this timing is a little too convenient, huh? And he's right. He is right. But he does also say in his interview that he would literally say anything he has to stay in the villa. And he also calls her the best of a bad bunch. So I think she made the right choice. At least Jordan isn't talking shit. At night, they discuss the impending dumping. And since they know that no matter what they do or say, it will not affect Rachel's choice, the boys get to work on lying to Lauren. And I feel like many times in these first few seasons, the girls are just trying to figure out who's lying the least. Omar, where is Omar? Omar claims he's been looking at her butt and is like trying to give her flirty eyes. One of the Italians says that he'll make her look good. And she says, well, you're arrogant, and also you've never made an effort. And she's right not to trust him because he calls her a rotter behind her back. A rotter. Conniving, ugly little man. Chris goes the indirect method and has the Hulk advocate for him and tell Lauren that Chris might genuinely be interested in her. He was saying that just this very morning with no agenda. He didn't even know about Danielle and Jordan's swaps. And he even does a little check-in later to really emphasize his authenticity. He is the most convincing, but he's definitely still lying at least a little bit. I'm proud to say, though, that Lauren is a smart girl, and she is not fazed by any of this bullshit, although it doesn't make it any easier. In fact, it probably makes it worse that she knows they're lying to her. This is episode 4, and she has already been through it. The next day, the boys are trying to help Omar save his skin. They're like, you are smart. You're actually smart. Stop acting like a middle school boy. She already has a kid. Act like an adult. She probably will like that. But it's too late because it's a daytime dumping. Hannah and John stick together. Jess and Josh stick together. Zoe and Jordan couple up. Danielle and Lewis couple up. Rachel chooses Omar, and he is almost in tears thanking her. He is so grateful and thrilled to be remaining in the villa. And that leaves our poor, sweet Lauren actually in tears because she doesn't want to pick any of them. And she also doesn't want to send anyone home. But since she has to, she chooses Chris, which means the Italians are leaving. Honestly, I think that they would have had a better chance if they weren't twins because the twinning of it all, it kept them from really befriending the rest of them. They isolated themselves, and it just kind of made them have more like of a villainous front. I mean, they're pretty villainous, but it had an effect. And they sure do prove that they're villains on the way out, too. They're hurling insults at Zoe, being really bitter, just saying mean shit to everybody. Now, I didn't mention this previously, but there is some live show elements in this season, and I'm bringing it up now because I know we all want to see these men go down. And when they go out to the live show for a post-dumping interview, it is boos, resounding boos. If there had been tomatoes on hand, they would have been catching them straight to the face. But they really can't help themselves. They just keep reiterating that all the boys were just jealous of them and they didn't like any of the girls anyways. I told you, petulant little men. They also do a little rewind to the end of the Italian hideaway fiasco so that we can see who really ended it. And yes, indeed, the Italian, whichever one of them it was, did tell her to go back to Josh, and she did say that she was tempted to stay despite that. So, yes, she did a little lying. But back to the villa, the Islanders get a text that the hideaway is open for the night, should anybody be interested. Jess and Hannah are really the only possible contenders for it. They're the only ones with anything relatively stable, but like, how stable could it be? And Hannah's smart, so she isn't so sure. She's kind of suspicious because she knows men, and she sees John and Josh over in the corner kikiing and giggling when they get the hideaway text, thinking that the girls will go in there with them. And it's giving her the ick. And me as well. I also was getting the ick from it. And then she hears John make some comment about like new girls potentially coming in and how they need to lock them down. So that's probably why they'll go in the hideaway with them. That's the end of the line for her, as it should be. And her and Jess decline the offer. Ha ha ha, stupid little boys. Obviously the boys aren't thrilled, but honestly, much better reactions than I thought. Josh, honestly, no reaction. He kind of just accepts it and moves on. John is mainly upset because Hannah is clearly pissed off and he has no idea why. He's been drinking a lot by this point in the night, so maybe he genuinely doesn't remember the joke that he just told. But that's not really an excuse. And Hannah goes ahead and reminds him of it. He tries to apologize, but she's not having any of it. So he storms out of the bedroom and then she's crying. And eventually he does come back, but they don't really resolve anything. I'll give him the credit that he reiterates in interviews multiple times and does tell Hannah multiple times as well that she's his dream girl. He's not interested in any of the other girls. But I'm still Team Hannah. Sorry. At the end of the day, I'm only Team John if John is Team Hannah. Like I said, we don't see any resolution to this conflict, although it is clearly resolved the next night, which is where we skip to. And y'all know how I feel about skipping. When they skip a day or a night, it does make me mad. But I think this is the only time in the season it happens, so I'll let them off the hook on this one. Just don't do it ever again. But anyways, we are at the next night, and there is 2 new bombshells. First, we have Daisy. She is 24 and a model, and she actually likes the bow tie fedora combo that Chris has been rocking. And so we know that there's a little bit of bad taste, at the very least, hanging around in her head. Despite that, I do really like Daisy. We don't learn a ton about her, but she is really nice and fun. And we also have Naomi. She is 23. She's in marketing. There's no other way to say it. She is sly. She is bitchy. I do hate this woman. You'll see. Don't worry. Despite the new girls, many of these men initially seem very intent on staying loyal. John, Josh, the Hulk, even Lewis. But let me emphasize initially, okay? Because we know these men. It's episode 7, but we know these men. Unfortunately, Omar and Chris are immediately ready to jump ship, especially Omar, because Rachel does say that she will not be laying with the man biblically until at least 3 months in. They all really get on her about this, and it's so weird and so rude, but at least she does tell them to just shut up. Because what do they think they're going to do? They think they're going to bully a grown woman into changing her timeline? Unlikely. Rachel is an immovable object, unlike most of these boys. Because let me tell you, about, I don't know, 10 minutes in to these new girls coming in, they're already questioning whether they actually want to stay loyal. And Josh in particular is guilty of this because he's really liking the look of Naomi. And Jess, of course, immediately clocks it. She may be a hot mess, but she knows men. And as she says, she also knows a flirty girl. Naomi's over here using all Jess's tricks. She knows them. She's seen them. She's used them. Hannah is also very paranoid, mainly just because she has trust issues. But she doesn't need to be worried at all. John is not going anywhere, girl. No chance. He does try and do his best to reassure her. It could be done better, but it's his best. And Omar is really trying his best too with new girl Daisy. And the next morning when she's talking about how she wants an ambitious man, he is so proud to announce that he was a top producer in real estate. Of course, I say was because, as we all know, he is currently unemployed and gambling. It doesn't matter anyways because, well, it's never going to happen. Daisy has her sights set on Jordan, the Hulk. Meanwhile, Naomi is into Lewis, or at least that's what she's saying out loud. Her eyes are roaming over to Josh a hell of a lot. But I think she's scared of Jess. And honestly, she should be because Jess is very territorial right now. She knows exactly what's going on. She's feeling very threatened, and the jealousy is really not a good look on her. Unfortunately, it's not up to either of them. Josh is the one who has to make a decision, and he would like to test the waters with Naomi. They always do. They always want to test the waters. Did you ever think you might drown? Just a thought. Luckily for Josh, exploring things with Naomi just got a whole lot easier because at lunch they get a text message that all of the couples are now dissolved. They are all now single. If you think I'm changing anything on the board, you're crazy. I'm not moving that stuff around. But they are all now technically single. The new girls will be speed dating 3 guys each of their choice, and then they will each get to choose somebody to couple up with. So now the girls have to resort to either intimidating or guilting the new bombshells because what other card do they have to play? Zoe chooses intimidation by telling Daisy that if she picks Jordan, they're going to have problems. I thought you were a Christian. Jess decides to go with a mix of intimidating and guilting with Naomi, but she's not budging at all. And she does make a good point. She doesn't want to be stuck with somebody that she doesn't like either. And she does need to put herself first. So Jess does cry a little bit, but just a little, because she needs to take it to the next step. She goes to grill Josh a little bit, but since the producers absolved him of all guilt, he's not being very reassuring or even kind. Quick recap of the speed dates. Naomi goes on one with Chris. It goes pretty well. Daisy also goes on a speed date with Chris. It goes okay, but he does say that he's interested in both of them, so it ends on a sour note. Daisy also goes on a date with Jordan, the Hulk. He's playing his cards pretty close to his chest, but he is clearly kind of interested in her. And then her final date is with Omar. He's giving desperate, as you would expect, but it's not a bad date. And then Naomi also goes on a date with Lewis. That goes pretty well. And then she goes on a date with Josh. And he is extremely, abundantly clear that he wants her to pick him. He's just completely flipped and is now claiming that him and Jess aren't even really compatible. Okay, sir, whatever you say. Jess does do a post-date check-in with him, and she is not pleased with the results, for sure. And he keeps beating around the bush about it, which just pisses her off more. They start openly fighting in front of an entire room of Islanders who frankly look like they were forced to watch a live birth. They are so uncomfortable. And she is giving him the business. And he's like, you actually scare the shit out of me. Like, for real. And then she threatens to punch him in the face if he chooses Naomi. So that's not really helping, girly. Not at all. He's thinking this girl is absolutely batshit, and I can't blame him for that. I really can't. Jess does cry, but her tears are useless because it's time for Daisy and Naomi to pick, and we all know they don't give a f. So they're all at the fire pit awaiting the decisions from the girls. And before I tell you their picks, I feel it's important to share that at this point, John has a towel wrapped around his shoulders and Hannah's sunglasses on the top of his head. So Daisy picks Jordan, which then prompts Zoe to say, well, sorry in advance, but I will be making out with your man later. It is kind of funny, but it's also incredibly uncomfortable. And at this point, John moves the towel from his shoulders to over his head. Naomi's turn. Josh is fully giggling, and everybody else has their hands over their mouths because they know what's coming. They are already in shock, and Naomi hasn't even said. But she does pick Mr. Giggles. Jess responds by saying, shock, how cute. Okay, a little sassy, but we're keeping it light, we're keeping it fun. At this point, John has Hannah's sunglasses on, and the towel is wrapped around his head like a 50s scarf, but that's the worst of it. No, it's not. She keeps going. Girl code. Josh is pissing me off. Wipe that smile off your face. Slut shaming her. And then she storms off, goes into the villa, and starts screaming, crying, throwing things, the whole nine. She is full Elphaba, flying off the handle. And at this point, John has the towel wrapped around his head, the sunglasses on, but he's now popped one of the lenses out. A perfect representation of how everybody is feeling after watching that blow up. Jess says she's really more upset that she was rejected and embarrassed on national TV, and I absolutely do believe her on that. Not that I don't think she likes Josh, but I just think the ego is hurting more than the heart at this point. But while she's in the dressing room upset, she is missing out on some prime tea about her. Naomi says she watched the Italian hideaway fiasco on TV, and she tells them what really went down. A shocking reveal for all. Well, except us. But a shocking reveal for all of them. So now, nobody is happy with Jess, because not only did she mug off Josh first, leaving her with zero leg to stand on in her battle against Naomi, she also lied to the whole villa about what really happened, which is part of the reason that they hated the Italians right off the bat. I mean, they would have gotten there eventually anyways because they are cartoon villains, but still. So Hannah goes and confronts Jess about this revealed info. And it's not great timing for Jess because, as I said, she is already in a really bad place. But the news waits for no one. She decides she's sticking to her story. She does not need another thing on her plate right now. But unfortunately, Daisy also saw the Italian hideaway fiasco on television. So it's not looking good for Jess. Hannah is still trying to be a supportive bestie, and she's like, listen, I trust you, I believe you, but if you didn't do this, you need to go and confront those girls right away, because if you don't, everybody will assume that what they're saying is true. So Jess does just that. Everybody's gathered around. They're sticking pretty close to Jess, just in case she wants to pop Naomi one. But Naomi basically is like, I don't know what to tell you, girl. Like, I saw it. Everybody saw it. All the Islanders will see it when they get out. The tapes don't lie. So Jess deviates back to, I never would have stolen a man from you. That's girl code. To which Hannah does make the good point that if indeed Naomi has seen the Italian hideaway fiasco and it is what she says it was, she's probably assuming you don't care much about Josh anyways, and you already wronged him, so it's fair game, and maybe she wanted to give you a taste of your own medicine. So Jess finally concedes that perhaps there was some flirty banter, but it's nothing like what Naomi is saying. And I mean, that's the wrong move, because if you're going to deny, stick to your story, because they all certainly know you lied now. At night, Josh and Naomi and Jordan and Daisy go on dates, but Jordan actually forgets to tell Zoe. So she's very sad about that. She sheds a few little tears. And then we get a pretty intense lore drop. She moved to Australia for a man, only to discover when she arrived that he had a girlfriend. And another dude that she was dating was embarrassed to say that he was with her and also was hooking up with his ex. So really, in comparison to all of that, what's happening with Jordan is small potatoes. But that small potato is tumbling the whole stack down. She has had enough. I can't understand why you would want to go on this show after all of that happening to you. Why do this to yourself? Go to therapy instead. Anyways, recap of the dates. We finally find out what Josh's job as a joiner means because Naomi is asking the right questions. Thank you, girl. Thank you for that one. I'll give you that. So basically, a joiner is like he fits windows and doors. Does that clear it up for any of you? It doesn't really for me, but we're moving on. What I do take issue with, Josh, is him saying how much prettier he thinks Naomi is than Jess. Boo! Daisy and the Hulk also have a good time. He says that he feels more chemistry with her than he does with Zoe. When the pairs get back, they're tiptoeing into the bedroom, but then they're like giggling underneath the sheets together. Jess is able to at least pull the covers over her head and ignore it, but Zoe fully has to leave the room and go sleep downstairs so that she can cry in peace. Okay, I just took a break and went to Hot Pot. If it looks like half of my makeup is off, probably from the steam of the Hot Pot, and it was delicious, so it was worth it. Anyways, I have now aligned the board with our current couplings. Jess and Zoe are now single, and in the morning, Jordan tells Zoe that he is feeling more chemistry with Daisy, and he's going to pursue that. So naturally, she's devastated. And there is a chat that is had at the smoking area between Daisy and Naomi and Zoe and Jess. Yeah, the girls are at odds. And Zoe's not doing herself any favors. She's trying to guilt her, being like, congrats, you won. Girl, get up. It is not her fault that Jordan played you. And I actually don't think that he did that intentionally. I really don't. I think it was just more of a proximity bias happening when he said that he was into her. It's a small villa. Limited resources will do that, you know? It is pretty unfortunate timing, though, because then they learn that there is a dumping coming up where the boys will be choosing. Omar, of course, is absolutely thrilled with this turn of events, and Rachel is hoping for the ROI that she was promised when selecting him and saving him from being dumped last time. But unfortunately, he thinks Jess is hot. But Jess actually starts by going after Lewis, or at least she tries. He is having absolutely none of it. She even asks him if he thinks he's in a winning couple with Danielle. Yeah. But he says yes. He does think that they're a winning couple. He wants nothing to do with Jess. He doesn't want to be second best. So that really doesn't work out for her. Zoe talks to Chris, who is kind of interested, but also very aware that she's been obsessed with Jordan this whole time. And is that really likely to change? No. But then he's pulled away by Rachel, who admits that she has a crush on him. Or at least for now. It's really more of a contingency plan because she can just tell that Omar is unreliable. And she's right. She is right. Because he later goes and talks to Lauren and tells her that if he strikes out with Jess, he will be picking Lauren on a friendship basis over Rachel because he likes her better. And Lauren didn't even have to lift a finger on that one. But like he said, he needs to shoot his shot with Jess before he resorts to Lauren. He just can't help himself. He has to give it a try. And honestly, she is more than happy to play make-believe and pretend like she might be interested because she wants to stay in the villa. And she also plays this little game with Chris. And guess what? It works on both of them. She's a professional at playing these men. She really is. But in the morning, Josh is trying to convince the boys not to choose Jess so that she gets dumped and he doesn't have to deal with that anymore. It's never going to happen, Josh. The odds that not one of these boys picks the hot girl who's so flirty, you don't know men at all, unlike Jess. Then all of the boys who are not coupled up with one of the new bombshells, so John, Chris, Omar, and Lewis, all do this silly little challenge to decide the order that they will pick in the recoupling. It's It's really a game that requires more brain cells than are actually available in this villa. None of them do well. But we do have a twist. Before any of those boys can pick, a new islander will be choosing. And that new islander is Chris. Yes, another one. He is super posh. He's a Nepo baby. And he says he has over 50,000 followers on social media, which for 2015, that meant a lot. And he chooses Danielle. So Lewis's pick just got stolen. And since we have two Chris's right now, I'm going to have to refer to him as Posh Chris. And the other Chris will be just Chris. I was going to call him Cringe Chris, but that's mean. And he's not cringy. It's just the bow tie fedora combo. And the rest of the pairings are as follows. John and Hannah stick together. Chris chooses Zoe. Omar chooses Jess. And then Lewis picks Lauren because they're besties and he wants to save her. And that means that Miss Rachel is going home. Unfortunately, she was just too real for this villa. And honestly, none of these people were ever going to meet her standards. So it's probably for the best. Afterwards, Posh Chris apologizes to Lewis for stealing his girl, even though he would do it again. He doesn't regret it at all, but sorry, I guess. And then he goes right over to talk to Danielle, who honestly is pretty pleased that he's arrived. She says that it's hard to have conversations with her fellow islanders because they don't know any big words, because they're idiots. No, really though, because he uses the term brain dead to describe them, and she goes right along with it. Brain dead? That's really mean. Listen, it is hard to disagree with the assessment that some of them are about as sharp as a marble, but I think some of them are smarter than at first glance they may seem. Maybe not in a traditional way, but not brain dead. That's just cruel to say. And also, you're on Love Island. This isn't a quiz show, okay? It's a show for hot people. And when you're hot, sometimes you can get away with not utilizing your full brain power at all times. Not that you should, but you can. Although I guess I should remember once again that this was season 1, so who knows? Maybe she thought this was a show for intellectuals. But if that's the case, she's a bigger simpleton than any of them. Lewis is very pouty about the new boy, but Danielle honestly doesn't give a damn. And it is a pretty unattractive look. Poutiness on what is supposed to be a grown man. Actually, how old is he? Well, he's 20, so I guess that does check out. But still, I'm unimpressed with his attitude, and so is Danielle. But let's turn our attention to some happier islanders, namely Omar, who is on cloud 9 being coupled up with Jess. The man is absolutely giddy. He takes her up to the bedroom to show her his bed, even though she has seen it because she's been sleeping across from him for a week. But he's just so thrilled. Meanwhile, Jess is the topic of conversation for the two Chris's. Yes, the two Chris's have become friends. OG Chris, Danielle, and Naomi are really the most sophisticated of the bunch. So, of course, that's where Posh Chris is gravitating. Anyways, despite being coupled up with Danielle and being interested in Naomi, Posh Chris just cannot help himself from being absolutely intoxicated by our Miss Hot Mess Jess. But he and the original Chris agree that it's just because she looks easy and naughty, which they find both appealing and revolting. Right. Even the ones who think that they're the cream of the crop can be instantly smited down by the Madonna whore complex. They really can. They might actually be even more susceptible. But for right now, Posh Chris is with Danielle. That's who he chose. That's who he said he liked the best. The only problem he has with her is that Danielle smokes. Ew, gross. He's so not into that. And I do kind of wonder if maybe they brought him in just to balance out the constant cigarette propaganda that is within this show, because they make smoking look really cool, guys. And it's not. It's not cool. But they do make it look that way. The way they are puffing 24/7. All the gossip is going down in the smoking area. So we needed a counterpoint. Smoking can be gross and unappealing also. And honestly, it probably was a bit effective because I do think one of the main reasons that smoking has gone down is because we were constantly told that it's going to make you uglier and you're going to reek of cigarettes and you're going to have wrinkles, and basically it will ruin your looks maxing routine. So he's making that point here. But honestly, if he wants a non-smoker on this show, this season, he's going to be on the next flight home. But while he contemplates that, the biggest smokers in the house, John and Hannah, are sneaking into the hideaway. But they don't get straight to nonsense. No, John first wants to ask Hannah to be his girlfriend. And it is kind of a sweet scene. I can't lie, I was giggling and kicking my feet just a little bit. Now, checking in with our other couples. Zoe and Chris chat, and she says that she's over the Hulk now because seeing him with Daisy and how well they're connecting, she realized that they have nothing in common. And Naomi tells Josh that if he had been up to any more funny business with Jess than he already was before she came in, she would not have been interested. And she's also so happy that Jess has very quickly gone back to being chill. And of course she has. Of course she has. They did have her troops there for a second. They did. But Jess will always win the I don't give a fuck war. Yes, she will. In the morning, all of the couples have breakfast dates so that they can get to know each other better, except Chris, who is really just getting to know all of Zoe's exes. He doesn't love that, but objectively, it did appear to be the most interesting conversation going on there. And then they do another getting to know you game all together. Lauren tells a story about shitting her pants, which in my opinion is light work. But they all act like she has done something monstrous, horrid. Even Zoe's eye chlamydia story doesn't get as bad of a reaction. Since when is shitting your pants not a hilarious and universal experience? We also find out that Lewis is adopted, and he's very grateful for that and very passionate about adopting his own children one day. Naomi says her greatest moment was getting her degree and making her single mother proud. And then Josh follows that up by saying that his greatest moment was a particularly enjoyable time that he had in the tub, solo. Why would you say that? Why? And Naomi is, of course, also asking that question. And she's also starting to wonder, is this man a dumbass? So we know that she hasn't heard a single word out of his mouth until just now. Later in the afternoon, Zoe tells Lewis that she would like to be picked by him. I think maybe because he was wearing a rosary. And as you know, she's Christian. But it is one of the most unserious gestures I've ever seen for him to be wearing a rosary. What place does the Virgin Mother have in this villa? Leave her out of it. But anyways, Lewis has options. Danielle, Zoe, Jess is still interested, and Lauren is kind of looking at him different now too. Plus, Naomi goes ahead and slaps his ass. And she's telling Lauren that she kind of regrets kissing Josh so quickly because in reality, she wants to explore her options. She wants the full Love Island tasting menu, specifically Lewis and Posh Chris. And she doesn't really give a damn about loyalty or whatever because we all know that's a fake word on reality television. That doesn't exist. Naomi has definitely been enjoying her time as the newest hot girl in the villa, but she may have been a bit too bold and brash with her flirtations because whispers are starting. Devious whispers going throughout the villa. Whispers to send her straight to the guillotine for this behavior. Jess and Hannah discuss it first, and as you can imagine, Jess is ready to rock. She wants to see this girl fall. So they direct John to go and tell Josh that his girl is a sly, no good harlot. While Naomi is having like a really flirty conversation with Posh Chris, it's very middle school vibes. 20 questions on Kick. Tell me who you like. While she's doing that, Josh is having a conversation with the Hulk, telling him about how he's traded up from a harlot to a real lady. Joke's on him. Also that afternoon, Zoe and Chris go on a date. They bicker the whole time. It's incredibly awkward, and really nobody cares. Well, Chris cares a lot. When they get back, he is so annoyed and telling everybody about how she was talking about her exes the whole time, just like at breakfast. And she is very bitter that he's talking shit, but like, he's not lying. At night, the boys stage an intervention for Josh to rid him of this Naomi is an angel delusion. And it's a two-parter because Jess then tells John about a conversation she had in the smoking area with Naomi, where she said that if somebody came in that was better suited to her than Josh, she would leave him in the dust and explore that connection, which is the entire point of the reality television show that they're participating in. But John is livid when he hears this. So he tells Josh, and they stage a whole confrontation with her. But did they really think that Miss Sly Naomi couldn't get out of that trap? Come on now. Her angle on that is that she assumed he would also say that, and she's scared because he's so much hotter and better and kinder than any guy that she's ever been with, and she just didn't want to be vulnerable. But of course, she's obsessed with him, and she would never want another guy. I told y'all she was in marketing. I mean, she knows how to spin a story, much to Jess's dismay. You will not catch her slipping. You won't. The silver lining is that Naomi's PR really didn't work on anybody but Josh. Everybody else still thinks she's a snake. But Jess is Fifth Harmony's Miss Moving On. She wants Lewis bad. I mean, all of the girls in the villa want Lewis, but Jess wants him bad. And she is putting her all into it to the point that it is giving desperate. But Lewis is holding incredibly firm. He might be the one guy in this villa that she can't get. And Lauren, his platonic partner at the moment, asks him which girl he might be into, provided that Danielle continues on with Posh Chris. And he says that he would rather find a best friend like her than be with any of them. Come on, Lewis, don't warm my heart right now. I'm in the middle of a video. But while Jess is desperate for Lewis, Omar is desperate for Jess, and he's trying to find any way he can to get a kiss from her. We also have a challenge that day of the disgusting food baby birding variety, and John and Hannah win. And as their prize, they get to go into the pod where they can contact the outside world. And they have a video chat with John's parents, which is really sweet because they say, "Oh my God, John, like you literally found your dream girl. She is everything you have ever looked for." Talk about some reassurance, Miss Hannah. And another sweet little bit that afternoon, Daisy and Hulk have their first kiss. Cute. And Omar is convinced that he can get that same action from Jess at night. He does make an attempt. It's hard to watch because we all knew it wasn't going to happen. We all knew that. But he insists that he was not rejected. He was not rejected. She didn't say that she wasn't interested. She said she wasn't interested right now. Okay, Omar. Sure. And we have to leave him with his delusions because we have a dumping. And this starts with the results of a public poll for favorite couple. The winners are John and Hannah, and the good news is they are definitely safe. The bad news is that they have to pick the couple that will be dumped. And they only have about 30 seconds to make that decision, which is rough. And they choose Posh Chris and Danielle. Guess money can't buy you a personality. Sorry, that's really shady. But the only thing they've done at all here is be rude. And then to replace them, we have two new Islanders. First, we have Max. Max is 22. He's a former professional cricket player. He looks just like Jake McDormand to me. Jake McDormand of Aquamarine, Bring It On All or Nothing, Greek, the TV show. Kind of the love of my life when I was a kid. I do like Max. And that might be partially because he looks like Jake McDormand. Who's to say? Naomi is also a little bit interested in him. And that was his initial target. But he's not entirely sure he wants to really stick his hand in the hornet's nest with the whole Josh thing. And we also have Beth. Beth is 19. She's a dancer. She comes in real hot in her promo video talking shit about all of the other Islanders. She also claims that she had some sort of flirtationship with Lewis in the outside world. But when she comes into the villa and he meets her, he pretends to know her just because he wants to be nice. But he's actually like, "I don't remember you at all." She still proceeds to tell all of the girls that they were supposed to go on a date, though. And she also says that she really wants to confront Jess because she thinks that she should know how she's looking to the viewers and the British public. That being like a slag. You know, she knows her job as a bombshell, and by golly, she will be doing it. Employee of the month. However, Jonathan does get to Jess first to give her a little preview of the situation to come, which of course is a dramatic fight. And Beth is a little peeved by that. She didn't really want him to take on that task. But at this point, She's going in. Beth says she's there for the wrong reason. She's so fake with Omar. She's embarrassing herself. She's mugged off all the guys by flirting with all of them. Luckily, Jess was prepped for this by John and the girlies, and they have directed her very specifically to not blow up. And she tries her very hardest. But of course, she does have to say something after all of the shit that Beth just said. So she calls her ugly and a dog. And she also finds a wrinkle in her argument because how could the public hate her so much and yet she's still here? At the very least, they love to hate her, and she is providing entertainment. Always. Always. And then miraculously, she walks away. So Lauren goes to work on the defense, and she says to her, like, look, logically, you just came in here all guns a-blazing, which probably wasn't your best move and also doesn't really make you look the best to us, who you now have to live with. And now that's not strictly true because a lot of the guys are loving Beth right now for all of this, but Beth has said her piece. At that point, Jess decides to give her final pitch, kind of to the group as a whole, and her most effective, in my opinion. Ultimately, has she been with multiple men? Yes, she has. But whose fault was that? Not really hers. She did one trade for Josh. She flirted with an Italian, but stayed loyal. And then Josh backstabbed her, and she didn't want to lose out on this gig, so she had to get to work, which many people would. Did she use Omar as a life raft? Yes, she did. But everybody knew what she was doing, including Omar. And of course, she also gets a few screams of agony in there because she's not a perfect person. But overall, I think a pretty reasonable response. Downstairs, Naomi is the newest member of Team Beth, and they take great comfort in believing that the only reason that people don't like them is because they're jealous. They're jealous. They're just so jealous. And I will hold their hands virtually while I tell them this. If your immediate instinct is to say jealousy is the issue when somebody doesn't like you, that is because you are a deeply jealous person. That's why your brain jumped there. And you know what? It's natural. It's a defense mechanism. But maybe just consider that perhaps it's not jealousy. Maybe they just don't like you because that's allowed and it's real and it happens like all the time. Now, does hatred because of jealousy exist? Absolutely it does. That is definitely why Jess hated Naomi at first. But it's evolved. It's spread. Almost every boy does not like Naomi at this point, and it's not because they're jealous. Most of the girls don't like Naomi at this point. Not because they're jealous, but because she is sly. And it's the same with Beth. Beth thinks that Jess hates her because she just wants Lewis so bad and she sees Beth as a threat. But in reality, it's because Beth came in here and immediately started attacking her. Now, some of the Islanders do go downstairs because they want to hear some more from Beth. She's saying some interesting stuff. And the next thing she tells them is that Jess talks shit about them all the time. And that's not really true, but she swears that Max will back her up on it, which he doesn't. He's kind of not really wanting to be associated with her. It's very clear. He's like, well, they aired out the whole Italian hideaway fiasco thing. And I mean, maybe Jess didn't come across amazing on TV, but I really think you, Beth, are going about this the wrong way. And Zoe definitely agrees with Max on this one. She doesn't like that behavior one bit. So she does say something to Beth right before bed, which of course makes Beth go off on her. And also she calls her a pelican-headed bitch. I'm sorry. I'm not team Beth. But it's funny. It really is. I mean, she got her good with that one. She did. Anyways, Jess then comes back up and she is at this point completely forgotten the pep talk that the girls and John gave her. She is calling this girl a million things under her breath, and then she just leaves the room and goes and sleeps in the hideaway. She needs some peace and quiet. Zoe and Lauren also tell everybody that, one, they need to stop egging Beth on because it's getting out of hand. She seems to be a bit of a loose cannon, and clearly she is obsessed with Lewis. And two, is Jess really that much in the wrong? Jess was responding to an attack on her. Did she say some shit that wasn't great? Absolutely. But like, she had to do something. What, she was just gonna let this girl yell at her forever? But we're leaving that for now to move on and give some of the other Islanders some attention because, frankly, they have had just like a pea-sized amount of airtime in comparison to Jess. But she's entertaining. Anyways, Daisy is worried that Jordan doesn't really like her very much. And she has great intuition because it's true. Her personality just isn't really working for him, especially when she drinks. Not that she's like crazy when she drinks or anything like that. She just likes to have a good time, and he seems to be very demure and calm. I hate that I have to use the word demure because it's so overused at this point, but I do think it probably is a good word to describe what he's looking for. He does tell her, like, I want to spend more time with you just to like make sure, but I don't really think I'm seeing this going anywhere at this point. He's nice about it, but of course she's devastated. They do remain civil though. So now he's wondering, would Zoe ever maybe want to be with me again? And she would. She definitely would, but she's also thinking about Mr. Max. In other news, our sweethearts over here, John and Hannah, are fully having adult activities on the daybeds outside, out in the open, in full view of everybody. They are covered, like there's a cover over them, but everybody's aware of what is happening. Where is the shame? Do they not have any? I have plenty. I'm filled with it. Please take some of mine if it gets you to stop doing that. At lunch, they get a text that they are all once again single, unless anybody wants to be boyfriend and girlfriend official. So Hannah and John, they're still a couple. And the producers really meant to play with Josh on this one, I think, because they knew damn well that Naomi would balk at that. And she does initially say no at lunch, but then later Josh pulls her aside and is like, wait, what? So then she concedes. She doesn't really seem thrilled by the idea, but nobody else is currently showing her interest, so why not? That afternoon, Daisy is singing and dancing and having a ball, having a good old time with all the other fun Islanders. Meanwhile, on the other side of the villa, the lame ones are judging and cringing, and that includes the Hulk and Zoe. So they have a little side chat about it where the Hulk basically lays out his feelings towards Daisy. But Zoe is like, oh, it's no worries. I'm sure y'all will be fine. I mean, I really liked you, and I never would have cringed you out. But I think that y'all can work it out. It's all good. But he is insistent that it is not going to work because she's just so Larry, which is like bold and brash and confident, like outgoing and fun. She likes to put on a show. She likes some attention. However, on the other hand, Zoe is very chill and quiet and demure. As much as I don't want to use that term, it does describe her well. Unfortunately, Daisy is kind of still holding out a little bit of hope that they can work through this and it's just a rough patch. But like, you've known each other a week. It really shouldn't be this tough right away. But at least John does set her straight and rid her of that illusion. That night they play Truth or Dare, and from that game we get some clarity finally on the subject we're dying to know more about. Did Beth and Lewis actually have a past? He clarifies that they spoke about meeting up, but they didn't make any specific arrangements. And then he was really drunk, so he took another girl home that wasn't Beth. Then Daisy is dared to kiss the guy that she's least into, which is going to go ahead and be Omar. No surprises there. But he says that he thinks she's the ugliest in the house anyway, so they're 100% aligned. They ask Naomi who she would be interested in if she wasn't with Josh, and she says Max, which was abundantly clear to me and really everybody based on the looks that she's been giving him all the time. And Omar and Jess finally kiss, because she was directed to kiss the shortest guy in the villa. But he will take that win. He did it. In the morning, Beth finally clears things up with Jess. Not really, though, because she's not apologizing, because she claims it's all true. So Jess just says, fine, that's fine. I disagree with the public's perception of me then. And by the way, I only like Lewis, so guess we'll be competing. Also, the Hulk, Mr. Jordan, takes advantage of their new single status throughout the villa and ends things with Daisy, and now he is all about getting Zoe back. And she knows that she should be cautious because she has been ditched once before by this man, but for some reason, She's really struggling to. He has some kind of hold on her. But what's Daisy to do with herself? She's got to find someone new. And luckily, that afternoon, they have a kissing challenge that will help her out with that. Or you would hope it would. It's a blindfolded kissing challenge. All of the singles, which is everybody except John and Hannah and Josh and Naomi, are participating. And despite the fact that the boys are the ones competing for the girls' votes on who's the best kisser, Daisy gets horrible reviews from everybody. Our girl is down in the dumps. Jordan is the one who wins the challenge, and since his reward is champagne in the hot tub with a girl of his choice, you know it's Zoe. So Daisy just has to watch that from afar and wonder what went wrong and what the hell happened to him saying that he had more chemistry with her in 20 minutes than he did with Zoe in the whole week. Because he was kind of talking shit about Zoe and making it seem like she was super weird and awkward. But I guess he thinks differently now because they are fully smooching in the hot tub. Then Beth gets a text that she gets to ask somebody on a date. Obviously, it's Lewis. And he says he is happy to go along and give it a chance and get a free drink. Lewis, buddy, all of the drinks are free on this show that you are a contestant on. You're the talent. All the drinks are free. Who have you been paying? Max also gets a date with somebody and he chooses Zoe, who is now a very hot item. And their date actually goes really well. So she is now conflicted and confused. Beth and Lewis, on the other hand, it's rough. He immediately starts by saying that everybody in the villa thinks that she's just there to start drama and play a game. And then he says he doesn't think there's a spark. She does accept it, but she is clearly very bitter about it. I mean, I'm pretty sure she just came on this show to be with him. Meanwhile, at the villa, John is laying his head back on Naomi's beanbag and asking her questions about Josh. And she starts stroking his hair. And of course, Hannah comes out and sees it. And the way Naomi's hands fly off that man's head. You would have screamed. You would have. Hannah's not mad at her because she knows Naomi's gig. She's mad at John because why the hell did he let that happen? And also, she's been noticing that he's been kind of distant. And y'all know Hannah is my girl, so I take this slight personally. What the hell, John? Especially because he's like, what? Are you serious? Oh my God, like that's crazy. And his polka dot chubbies clenching his ass cheeks as he says it because you know he's about to shit himself. Because he says in his interview that he would be livid if his little scouse Barbie was doing the same thing. And he's asking himself, why would she ever think that I'm not into her? How could she not realize how much I like her? How does she not know that she's my dream? Well, perhaps because of the things that you're doing, your actions. They'd make me question for sure. He's getting mad about it and all upset, and she's having absolutely none of it because she knows it was his fault, and he knows it too. And this is really not a good look on John. Really not. And the fight continues that night because she comes up to him to talk to him about literally something unrelated, not that issue. And immediately, he is doing the act of moody, middle-aged man who thinks they have a nagging wife because she asked him to do the laundry one singular time. And she's not having a bar of that. Absolutely not. She's like, oh, you want me to stop talking? That I will, mother. I'll be out of this villa tomorrow. So then he punches a wall. Yeah, we're doing that now. We're punching walls. So I no longer like him. Meanwhile, Zoe is caught between two men, and right now she's thinking Max, because remember, the Hulk has said he liked her before, and then he ended up shit-talking her to Daisy, and that is fresh in her mind, so she's more interested in the safe choice at this point, and she tells him that, but it doesn't sound definite. The next morning comes, and John and Hannah are all good again. How? I couldn't tell you, the world may never know, but they've worked it out somehow. What's not all good is sly Naomi, who is constantly still flirting with all the boys. Yes, apparently, John is not the only boy's hair that she's been running her hands through. That's the gossip that the girlies are saying as they're watching her and giggling to Max and telling him how he'll have the pick of the bunch. Anyways, that day they're doing compatibility tests for the two couples, John and Hannah and Josh and Naomi. So we have Hannah and Naomi in the living room with the other islanders. Omar is asking them questions. And then the two boys are in the pod also being asked the same questions with cameras on them being broadcast to the living room so we can all see what they say. Everything is fine and silly and sweet until they toss out the question to Hannah and John, who does Hannah think is the biggest threat to y'all's relationship in the villa? Hannah is smart, so she says herself, her trust issues. And John is not smart, so he says Naomi. And Naomi's like, what? Who? Me? Obviously, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise, but whatever. So Hannah just comes out with it because what other choice does she have? And she tells her, listen, everybody here thinks that you're flirty and sly, and that includes me and John. Sorry. She's upset and she cries to Josh about it, and he says he doesn't think she's flirty and sly because he's blind. And in the midst of all that, Zoe decides that she's actually not going to go with the safe option. She's going to try things out with Jordan again. And Max is actually okay with that because, one, he doesn't want to be second best. And two, he knows he's still the hot new item in the villa. That night, shit goes down. Daisy and Jess are sitting in the smoking area when what does Jess hear with her little ears? Lewis, Omar, and Josh sitting in the hot tub, talking shit, saying how they're all used to getting 10s, and the girls here are barely 6s. They're having to lower their standards. How pathetic. And we know, if there's anybody in that villa that they did not want to hear that, it's Jess. She goes straight upstairs and tells all the girls and John exactly what was said. Well, of course, Father John comes down to admonish them for talking shit where people could hear them, and that gets the boys storming straight up to the girls getting ready space. Yes, that's right. They are about to disrespect the getting ready area. That's sacred ground. They start screaming, mainly at Jess, saying she's exaggerating. They only said that there were no girls here that were their types, which isn't true, by the way. That she's dumb and she's stupid and she's a shit stirrer and she's just bitter because nobody likes her. And if she wants to talk shit, she should say it to their face and not behind their backs. As if they weren't just talking shit behind the girls' backs. The way that these men completely disregard the fact that there are thousands of cameras on them. They are mic'd up. It is an easily ascertainable fact that they did all of this. And they immediately just jump to saying that she's lying and yelling at these girls. This is the way they treat women with the cameras on them. We are so lucky in that moment to have Jess sitting there in the dressing room, straightening her hair without a care in the world, smirking at them as they implode upon themselves. I loved her so much in that moment. She was the only girl in the world at that moment for me because it was beautiful. It really was. And they were absolutely deplorable. At this point, I'm against almost every one of these men. Chris, Max, Jordan, they didn't do anything, but they also didn't do anything. John at least said something to them, but he also punched a hole in the wall yesterday. So, and the rest of them, they can choke. In the morning, to finish off that fight from the night before, Lewis does genuinely apologize to Jess for the way that he was treating her and yelling at her. But he does reiterate that he thinks that she's being two-faced. I don't know if he knows what that means. But he's not apologizing for the original shit talking. He's not apologizing for telling her that nobody likes her. And she says very smartly that if everybody else in this villa truly doesn't like her, as he says, they're all much better at being two-faced than she is. Plus, she's a glamour model. She knows her worth. She says, I'm in magazines, so I'm clearly not ugly. Maybe you just have bad taste, Lewis. Josh also gives a lame non-apology that's really giving like annoying little brother energy. She basically ignores that completely because she knows she was in the right. She knows she read them for it. While that's happening, John and Hannah go to the grocery store to pick up food to make a meal for all the other islanders. It's like a little challenge. But mainly, it's just John being super loud and annoying and not letting Hannah get in word in edgewise or do anything. So when they get back, she's like, hey, I kind of feel like you're overpowering me. Like, I would like to shine too. We're a team. Let's work together. He, of course, gets pissed, and that brings up even more issues for her because she's like, why can't we deal with these things in private instead of you making it a show for the whole villa to see and our fights become entertainment? And I really feel for Hannah. I do. She at this point is yelling because she doesn't want to be walked all over. Clearly trauma responsing it up over here. But yelling just makes it worse. We all know that. I've been to therapy. It's true, guys. They try to talk again. She says, I'm fading into the background in this relationship because you won't let me shine too. It has to all be the John show. He, of course, gets pissed again. And she's like, you know what? You have a lot of fucking disrespect for me, yelling at me the way you do, with everybody seeing it, inside and outside the villa. Is this the way you are? Is this the way you operate? Is this what you think of me? He takes that as a serious insult and storms off. Well, perhaps you have some traits that you should work on, John. That's what I think. Then we circle back once again. Let's try and get this to a conclusion. He says, you're perfect and you make me feel like a rainbow unicorn. Those are his exact words. He says rainbow unicorn. And I'm just scared because I've never felt like this before. And I'm really insecure because I don't have abs. And I'm worried that you're going to realize that you're too good for me. I wish she would. I really do. But instead, she cries and says that she's scared too because she's never been happier and he is perfect for her. And then they tell each other that they love each other and everything is resolved. That's what we'll call that. Moving on to happier topics, Jess and Max have been chatting and they kind of have a cute little vibe going. So the girls take that to mean that Jess will absolutely choose him in a recoupling because she'll take anyone. Why is everyone against a hot girl? And when it's bedtime, they decide that they'll be sharing. Additional bed swaps include Zoe and the Hulk, Daisy and Chris platonically, and Beth and Omar also platonically, although I did see Beth stroking his hair some. So maybe she's starting to understand Jess's game a little bit more now. And thank God Miss Jess did play that game because now she's got a little thing going with Mr. Max. And he does say that his mother told him to stay away from her. But now that he's in the villa, he realizes that the producers have been trying to give her a villain edit. And she is actually very wonderful. And also, he is not afraid of what other people say because, in his words, he's strong enough to have his own opinion. Go, Max! The next morning, Lauren decides to grill Naomi just a little bit. And I'm happy to see that, of course. And I'm even more happy to see our bestie Lauren doing it. First question. Don't you feel like you've kind of been forced into a relationship with Josh considering you obviously didn't want to be when it was initially offered? She says, yes, she was very reluctant to just jump into a relationship with him, but she wouldn't use the word forced. Vocabulary is important. Next question. Tell me more about that guy that you were dating and dumped literally right before you got in a cab to the villa. Now that is some front page news. And Lauren is very clear. This was not just a hookup. No, she was fully seeing this guy. She met his parents. And Lauren and Zoe are the only ones who currently know because Naomi told them. But they can't keep that secret much longer. Naomi says that she won't be having that come up. But at this point, she knows it's not really up to her anymore, so she has to go tell Josh. And what she tells him is that she did not care about this man literally at all. Not one iota, as she puts it. Again, she did meet his parents, but okay. And really, Lauren and Zoe are really the problem because they're just the latest in the villa to think that she's sneaky. And of course, they are 1,000% wrong. And there's Josh just sitting in the high chair like a little baby being spoon-fed medicine disguised as candy, giggling all the way through. At this point, every single person in this house has thought that she was sly. Maybe not currently, but at least at some point. And so they decide to have a round table that afternoon to discuss her various transgressions because she just doesn't get why everybody thinks she's so untrustworthy. Why does everybody think she's sly? Why isn't her facade working? Now, many of the Islanders are claiming that they no longer think this about her because they've all had situationships or friends with benefits, many of them right before they went on the show. As we know, Hulk broke up with his girlfriend 2 weeks before. That was a big yikes, as is this. So do they really have room to judge? They're all hot people and they're constantly doing it, but they don't really have all the full details. Like, for example, the majority of them do not know that she met his parents. Or here's another example. The producers picked her up from this man's house to take her to the villa. But while they're discussing targeted attacks, Jess would like to know why the boys are constantly hating on her, constantly slut-shaming her, when in reality, she has only kissed one boy outside of the challenges. But they claim that her actions show it, and she's been laughing along with them, so she must like it. And again, has Jess made mistakes? Yes, she has. Is she very flirty? Yes, she is. She's straight up being bullied by them at this point. I wish I could go into that villa just to slap them upside the head. They piss me off, but I can't. So we're moving on. In the afternoon, they do an obstacle course challenge. Lewis and Lauren win, so they get calls with their families. And then we have a dumping. One boy is leaving, and each girl has to stand up individually and say who they would like to dump. And they pretty much unanimously dump Chris, so goodbye, buddy. You know, we didn't really hear much from him in the end. I did absolutely hate the fits, but, you know, he seemed nice enough. And since he's gone, Max has decided to take up the mantle of fuck-ass hat wearer. He's debuting some sort of like floppy felt hat on this night. But anyways, that's not all. One girl will also be dumped in the same way, each boy standing up and choosing who they want to leave. And again, pretty much unanimously, they decide to dump Daisy. After the dumping, they decide to cheer themselves up. They will try and get Jess and Max in bed together. It is Taylor Swift So High School, but they seem to be enjoying themselves because in the morning, Max is sharing details and says he went to the fish market. Now, where is the class in that? But he also does say that he has the best connection with her of anybody else in the villa, so that's a win for her. On the other end of the bedroom, Zoe is struggling with the temptation of Jordan due to her religious beliefs. But at least she has a little bit of distraction because that day, all of the girls go into the pod to interview new men to be bombshells. And they decide on Travis. Travis is a 22-year-old personal trainer and bodybuilder who claims he's interested in Lauren. This is a classic tactic for bombshells where they say that they're into somebody who's not getting much action. Then the boys get to conduct interviews to find a new girl bombshell. And the very first girl, when she is asked who is playing a game in the villa, she says, can you guess? Naomi. And all the boys are just stunned. They don't know why no girls like her. It's so confusing. And the last bombshell who they end up choosing is Callie. Callie is 23. She's a dental nurse and a former Miss GB. But the most important thing for you to know about Callie is that her and Lewis had a situationship outside of the villa. And he says that he almost fell in love with her, but they drifted away due to distance. And let me tell you, when this girl got on the screen in that video call, Lewis was smitten in a big way. And since none of them expressed interest in Omar whatsoever, even though their bombshells and that would have been their ticket into the villa, Lewis is going to go ahead and get his girl. Of course, when they return, the boys once again tell Naomi that nobody likes her, and so she is once again in tears. And I would feel bad. I really would. But I know in my heart this girl is sly. She's no good. At night, all of the Islanders have a sappy moment saying their favorite parts of the experience so far. Sweet, but also boring. So the producers go ahead and shake things right up with a dumping based on public vote. And it's so long to Omar and Beth. Omar was really their comic relief character, so he will be dearly missed. I can't say the same for Beth. But forget about them. Clear them from your mind completely. We have way more important things to go over post-dumping because Josh is finally seeing the slyness that defines Naomi's character on this show. I don't know what it is that clicked for him. I don't know. But suddenly he has noticed She's always looking at Lewis. She's always flirting with Lewis. She's always sitting by Lewis. What's that all about? And even though all of these boys have been acting for the past week like Naomi is just being misunderstood, John immediately confirms this behavior. I think all of the boys saw it the whole time, but after Josh shut them down and stayed with her when they brought it up at the beginning, I think they decided, we'll just let him do the math himself. And oh boy, has this man carried the one. He has solved that equation. Naomi minus Josh watching her equals flirting with all the boys plus pick me energy minus girl group approval. Big round of applause for that. Okay, now settle down because the two new bombshells are entering the villa. Lewis and Callie are immediately picking up where they left off. They're living in the land of love, and Travis beelines for Lauren, so that's off to a good start. And since Lewis now has a girl in his sights, new woke Josh has decided to be very crafty. He's going to watch from a distance. And if Naomi's behavior towards Lewis, all the flirting and stuff, doesn't change, then no worries. She's just a flirty person. But if suddenly she's laying off now that Callie is around, well, then Josh is going to have to submit his evidence and blow some shit up. And let's just say it's not looking great for Naomi. She is immediately clinging to Callie, trying to be her bestie, wants to hang out with her and Lewis 24/7. To be fair, Callie says that she also treats all guys and girls the same, and she's super friendly, so she understands Naomi. No, I don't think you do, Callie. I really don't, because you're not realizing that she is currently doing the bestie who wants your man act. Oh yeah, we're both so small that I'm still the smallest. Oh, Lewis is my best boy here. Of course, except Josh. At least John clocks it. John clocks it, and he labels it as such right from the start. Meanwhile, Josh has this really weird, flirty conversation with Jess where they're like reminiscing on the time when they were hooking up at the beginning of the show. And then she's saying, like, oh, well, it seems like you haven't had much action since. But it's all good because you're all loved up with Naomi. To which Josh says, whoa, that's a bit extreme. And then she's like messing with him about how he was making a total fool of her when they were hooking up. And then he starts accusing her of looking at his bulge. She's like, I'm actually not looking because I know what's in your pants. So I don't have to wonder. So I'm not looking at it. It's a very, very weird interaction. So of course they immediately go and tell their friends about it. From Josh's standpoint, he thinks that Jess just said that she is watching him in bed with Naomi, knows they haven't done anything, and was looking for an opening to see if her and Josh could get back together. Now, when did she say that she was watching you? Girls talk. Everyone knows girls talk, you little fool. And Naomi has very specifically said that she would never do any of that on TV. So of course Jess knows you haven't done it. I think he really wants her to be obsessed with him, but he's reaching. Meanwhile, Jess tells the girlies, yeah, of course, he's super hot, and obviously we have chemistry, but I would never, ever be with him again, especially considering how horrible that he's treated me. Nevertheless, have y'all seen the eyes he's been making at me recently? And the girls have. The girls agree. He has been looking at her a certain way these days. Next step, of course, we need to discuss this all as a villa together. And Josh is in full attack mode. And since it's Jess, we know everybody is going to start dogpiling on her. She really does tell the true story, but he's trying to twist it in every way he possibly can. So she ends up in tears by herself again. Luckily, this time around, she has Max. And Max is like, Josh, I think you may just be taking this way out of proportion. I think maybe you're just kind of cocky. But Josh claims that no other person would have asked him about what he's done with Naomi. Then Zoe pipes up and is like, yeah, I actually definitely would have asked you. Some of us just want the tea. At this point, the group separates. Max goes and he tells Jess, look, just tell me exactly what happened. Be completely honest. I'm not going to be mad at you no matter what. I support you. I just want to know exactly what happened. He's not completely coddling her because he does say, like, you know that they twist shit. So don't give them ammo by having these weird conversations with Josh. But he also really does comfort her. And while that's happening, Rotten Josh is telling Naomi that Jess was being way more direct, way more forward, way more dirty than she actually ever was. Like, it is getting to the point of lies, seriously. And they are trashing the hell out of her, which doesn't surprise me, of course, because Naomi always throws in a sly comment about a girl she is a woman I hope to never be around. At one point, she literally says, "Oh, well, I've never had a one night stand because I think that's disgusting for a girl. Of course, for a man, it's totally okay." Boo! Boo! Setting women back! Boo! Naomi really wants to pretend that Jess is some villain seductress and she would never be so disgusting. But from what I can see, they are all doing the exact same things. Jess is just way more upfront about it, and Naomi is very sneaky. And what I think was really going on, if you want my opinion, was that Josh was really hoping that he could spin this situation in a way that Max would then be put off Jess, and then Jess would be free in case him and Naomi don't work out, which it's seeming like they won't. At least Jordan and Zoe have a good night in the hideaway together. Yeah, you know what kind of good night. The one her pastor would not like to hear about. In the morning, Max is still pretty sure that Josh just thinks everybody wants him and is exaggerating greatly, and he is correct. And Josh is still faced with the fact that Naomi is clearly into Lewis. He goes over to where they're all tanning, and she's saying, "OMG, wouldn't it have been like crazy if I had picked you, Lewis, and then Callie had come in? Because like you'd have to choose who you like better between us." That is where Josh needs to be putting his energy, rather than into Jess's affairs. But it does bring me great joy to see that Callie gets a date and immediately picks Lewis, and off they go. So happy. And Travis also gets a date, and he picks Jess, even though he said he was interested in Lauren, remember? But he tells Jess that he's more attracted to her. Unfortunately, Jess says, "No, I'm actually very into Max, so do I want to go on a date with you? I do not." So Travis goes ahead and asks Lauren, and she's very happy to accept. She's thrilled until she realizes that he asked Jess first. She calls him out on it, and he tries to lie, but then he apologizes. I hate this man already, though. So one date obviously goes better than the other. Callie and Lewis are like fully in love. She says that basically she saw him on the show, realized she did not want to watch him fall in love with somebody that wasn't her, so she got her ass in that villa. On the other side of the spectrum, immediately after their date, Lauren and Travis decide that they're just going to be friends because one, Travis isn't that into her, and two, she already feels second best and they just started, and also she was second best. So that's not appropriate for our wonderful, wonderful Lauren. She doesn't deserve that. Also that afternoon, Naomi is asking Josh if he really likes her because he's not very good with words of affirmation. He's not very good with words at all, really. But he says, "Yes, absolutely. I really do like you." Okay, cool. Then she asks, "Would you ever consider somebody else?" He says, "Absolutely not. No, I wouldn't." And then he thinks, "Wait just a minute here. Why are you asking that? Would you?" She says no. But of course, she's sly, so we have to take that with a grain of salt. To me, this interaction was more testing the foundation of their relationship to see if there was any like cracks she might be able to slip out through more than anything else. Eagle-eyed viewers may notice that my hair is now slightly darker and slightly shorter. I went to the hair salon today. I do not film these all at once because I film them in my spare time and I don't have that much of that. So I keep the same clothing for continuity and we move right along. We're on to episode 20 at this point. Jess and Max are doing pretty well. They are definitely very into each other, definitely vibing. She's enjoying being with somebody who knows who she is and likes her that way. And since they're doing so well, they have plenty of time to gossip about how Josh and Naomi do not seem to be doing great. From the boys' perspective, Josh can't really be himself around her because she's always so far up on her high horse, thinking she's posh and cool and hot. But from Naomi's perspective, she thinks Josh is kind of just like a primal idiot boy. And as the attraction is starting to wear off, she's noticing that more and more. Neither of them are wrong, by the way. they have a chat about that, as well as her flirting issues, the lack of adult activities in the bedroom, and basically they both come to the conclusion that this really can't go any farther than the surface level relationship they're at now, so it needs to end. Naomi seems pretty pleased that it's over. Josh seems more sad, but definitely acknowledges that this is what needs to happen. And so now we have a single Naomi and a single Josh in the villa. Trouble, trouble, trouble. Josh, Jess, and literally everybody else in the villa knows that Naomi's next target is obviously going to be Max, because she had previously said that he was more on her level. And since Max is included in that everybody who knows that she's coming after him, he's now contemplating what he's going to do when this inevitable situation occurs. He is happy with Jess, but it seems like he might still kind of share the same perspective as everyone else in the villa, that Naomi is like wife material and Jess is just for fun. So when Jess asks him about it, he says he is happy with her, but he doesn't know. And he really just does not do a good job of reassuring her, especially because Jess knows that Naomi is his type. So then she heads over to Naomi for some intel, but she's giving nothing away, which in a way is giving everything away. Jess, she wants your man, and you know it. You know it. So she talks to bestie Hannah about it, who thinks that Naomi would never do something like that, because she knows that Jess would drown her in the pool if she did. But Hannah isn't sly like her. She doesn't realize that at that very moment, Naomi is talking to Max in the bedroom. They're doing the will they, won't they. I'm sorry, I just heard gunshots. Let's move on. They're doing the... It's not funny. They're doing the will they, won't they dance in the bedroom, which Max refers to as a battle between his head and his head. Right. But you know what? Hannah and Jess are also doing a little will they, won't they dance, chatting about her and Josh. Could they rewind time? Could we rewrite the stars? Jess thinks not, but she's also not really sure about Max at this point because of this whole scenario that's happening. And despite saying the night before that she really wasn't even thinking about who she might couple up with following their split, Naomi in the morning is extremely confident that this will all end with her stealing Max from Jess, which would suck for her because it would really make her look like a bitch. Admittedly, it does not look great for Jess because Max is conflicted and he does want to get to know Naomi because she's his type and he thinks that she could be something more long-term. He thinks she is a classy, classy girl that everybody loves. But I can tell you that at least half of the villa does not share that sentiment at this point. That afternoon, they do a challenge where they read quotes from people and then guess who said what. This is exactly the type of challenge that I eat right up. Love it so much. Tasty, yum, yum, yum. So everybody finds out that Naomi said that Max was her type while she was with Josh, which really isn't that egregious. And we find out that somebody, obviously Naomi, said that she is a little player on the outside. She swears up and down that Lewis said this and not her, but unfortunately the game doesn't lie. And it was indeed her. Little by little, she has stopped getting away with shit and is starting to get called out. And she is not happy about that. She's pouting, she's crying, she's frustrated. But I just can't find it within me to have any sympathy on this occasion. I'm plumb out. Especially not when she's saying that Jess and Max just don't look good together. Pshaw. Sorry, if y'all wanted a YouTuber who was not a hater, you should look elsewhere. Anyways, some old-ass Love Island contestant comes in and takes all of the boys out clubbing, so of course the girls are very nervous. But right before they leave, Lewis does tell Callie that he loves her. Too cute. Anyways, while the boys are gone, Lauren vents to Callie about how like she's never been the prettiest girl, but in here it is like next level comparison, and she feels horrible about herself next to the other girls, and this has all just been like a very hard hit to her self-esteem. And she cries, and then Callie cries, and then I was crying, of course. We were all crying. And Callie comforts her so well. She just has a heart of gold. And I really get it. I do. It's easy to say, like, who cares what people think of you? Looks don't matter. But that's not really true, is it? Our society has made sure of that. Now, while the boys are out clubbing, Max tells them that he thinks Jess is more into him than he is into her. And he, Josh, and Travis all make out with girls. Josh and Travis take girls back to the villa. I am sure the producers were not loving that, but all the other boys stay loyal. Back at the villa, after Lauren and Callie's little heart-to-heart, some nude butlers come in to give the girls a party time. And boy, do they party. They have a ball. And even though they're not like hooking up with the guys or anything, Callie and Naomi are kind of sitting in the corner judging them, which I wish they wouldn't. Girls just want to have fun. Let them have fun. Also, importantly, Hannah does a quick little flash to the girlies, but of course, butlers are also observing. Back to the boys, though. Josh and Travis bring back girls, as I said, but it's morning by the time they get back to the villa, and Josh immediately gets into bed with Naomi and is like telling her that he likes her and even tries to kiss her, which she does reject. And Max thinks this is all because he told Josh that he was interested. Eventually, Josh is cajoled into going downstairs and telling the random girl he brought there to leave, and everybody thinks he is so lame, including her, but especially Travis, so they kind of hate each other now. Moving on with the morning, Hannah tells Jess about what Max had said about wanting to get to know Naomi, but she phrases it as him wanting to be with Naomi, which isn't exactly what was said, but it seems to be what everybody interpreted. So that's a hard hit for Jess, and she immediately does go and confront him. He tells her he sees more long-term potential with Naomi and basically ends it with her. So of course, Jess cries because she is once again second best to Naomi, which absolutely blows. And Max does try and comfort her, which, like, in theory, that's really nice. In practice, get the hell away from me if you're the one causing the tears. Anyways, Jess is in her sad girl era, but not without wishing him the worst and saying that she hopes this risk bites him in the ass and that Naomi does everything to him that she did to Josh. And speaking of Josh, he apologizes to Naomi for trying to kiss her after he was kissing a bunch of random girls at the club. And then she asks him why Max didn't kiss any other girls. But Josh corrects that real quick because Max was doing smooching. He was doing smooching at the club as well. And now that both past partnerships have discussed, Naomi and Max are chatting about their potential together and how Jess was always just for fun, and Naomi could never see them actually being together. And Max agrees. And whenever Jess walks by, Naomi is like giggling and being like, oh my God, how awkward for her. A high school mean girl. I think she's like 26. Get your act together. And also, she is kind of trying to still pretend like she likes Josh, and it's just such a tough decision. But since he did all of that stuff last night, she's now more into Max. Which, like, they already broke up. Why pretend, girl? So we have all of that messiness already, but that's not enough for the producers. So we're playing a game where they show everybody clips from the night before. Zoe goes ahead and does a little preemptive apology because she doesn't remember anything from last night. But the clip of Zoe is just her rejecting a kiss. So good job, Zoe. And then we also see Max and Josh kissing girls at the club and Hannah flashing. John is not pleased with that. Hannah thinks it was hilarious, though. It was a hoot. And I think he's silly if he was at all surprised by his Playboy bunny girlfriend flashing her friends. And everybody else thinks he's silly, too. Anyways, he does get over it. I think, honestly, the biggest cause of that fight was a hangover. At night, they have a birthday party for Jordan where he and Zoe reveal that they are now an official boyfriend-girlfriend couple, even though they are not a couple on the show. We have had very few recouplings. Naomi also reiterates to Josh that due to his grimy behavior the night before, she will be choosing Max. She also tells Max that. And then suddenly, she is in Josh's bed, cuddling with him and telling him how it's just such a hard decision and she's so confused. And then the next minute, she's downstairs flirting with Max again. She obviously just wants to keep Josh on the hook. But luckily, in the morning, Max and Josh are comparing stories and they're starting to realize, wait a damn second. Is it possible, at all possible, that Miss Bimbo Jess was right all along? She's playing us both? But she does tell Josh and Max that her final decision is Max. And then they play a game where they guess the public's answers to superlative questions. And Naomi is shocked to find out that the public think that she is super vain and Hannah isn't, because Hannah takes so long to get ready in the morning. And she's so not like that. She's not like the other girls. She doesn't do makeup like them. She clearly doesn't understand that there's a bit more to vanity than just doing your makeup. Everybody actually sticks up for Jess when she is chosen as a player, which I agree. Let's correct that. Naomi, Jess, and Travis also get chosen as the fakest. John is also being very mean, joking during this game, like saying that Zoe's religion doesn't match her actions, that nobody likes Jess, that nobody would ever marry Lauren. He even says that Naomi probably is just a receptionist who sleeps with her boss when she says that she's in the corporate world. It's a tough day when I have to defend Naomi and be on her side of something. I never thought I'd see it come, but on this occasion, John deserves hell. Lauren does prove him wrong because she is voted by the public as wifey. But both Max and Josh tell Jess that they doubt anybody would ever want to marry her. They're straight up bullying her, and she tells them she hates it and that it genuinely bothers her. And they just keep going. And not a soul defends her. It's clear to me that her self-esteem is at an all-time low, and everybody around her seems to think that it shouldn't bother her because they think that she knows she's hot. When will y'all learn that insecurity is an equal opportunity feeling? Everybody can be insecure, even hot people. To cheer her up, the producers decide to send her, Lauren, Travis, and Josh on like kind of a double date, but more of just like a singles day out. Lauren floats out the idea that Jess and Josh pair up again because like they do obviously have chemistry and it's not like they have another option at this point. And while Jess is not interested in him, she does say, I think I would do it just to gag them, honestly. And back at the villa, Naomi and Max also kiss, and Naomi is willing to bet that Jess and Josh will do it. Max says, surely not. Max also discusses the possibility of Josh and Jess with Travis because he doesn't care at all. And that's what people who don't care do. They discuss it with everybody, including randoms like Travis. They also talk about how they ultimately all want a girl like Naomi that everybody will say good things about. I beg of them to tune into this video. At night, Naomi and Max get into bed together, and then Josh jumps into Jess's bed, fully nude. And Naomi is bothered. She's calling her a skank and embarrassing, all because she's having a giggle with everybody else in the villa about Josh being naked. Like, it is a little bit funny. He did it for a giggle. He didn't do it to hook up with Jess. But when the lights go down, they actually are doing at least a little bit, and Naomi has to leave the room. It turns out she doesn't like feeling disposable either. I do wish that Jess wasn't doing anything real for this bit because Josh doesn't deserve it. But I am glad that it's getting to Naomi a little bit. The next morning, Josh says that he doesn't remember anything. But Jess does, and she tells him that he tried to f her multiple times, to which she said no. So then he goes and tells all of the boys all of that, and is like joking that she took advantage of him. It's not really something to joke about. And I wondered for a second if maybe he wasn't joking, but since she said she told him no, I assume that didn't happen. I could be wrong. Also, they have this amazing shot of Naomi that is from a camera in like one of the kitchen cabinets or the mirror or something. So she's looking directly into it, and you can see her reactions to everything that Josh is saying behind her. She's not happy. And Max is also being very petty and saying, oh, I knew this would happen because Jess is so easy. What a peach he is. Josh and Jess are really enjoying this game because Naomi is very clearly annoyed, and I think Max is too. And then they send Naomi and Jess grocery shopping together for dinner, and they have a heated conversation, and Naomi does admit that on the outside, they both are players. They act the same. But in here, Naomi's the saint, and Jess is the sinner. Yes, I am watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I think I may have mentioned this before, but I'm going to do a video on it. We have to be patient with that one. But as Billy Joel would say, the sinners have much more fun. Unfortunately, though, Jess does give up the gag and tell her that her and Josh were just messing with her the whole time. When they get back, Josh tells Jess that they shouldn't share a bed together anymore because he doesn't want her to get attached, and then he mugs her off again. I mean, I guess at least he's being honest. And Jess is like, fine, perfect. That's okay. I don't want to be with anybody who doesn't want me. While they're getting ready that night, Naomi claims that her and Josh will always have unfinished business. And thank God Lauren is there to call her out and say, you're just stringing him along. But Naomi claims that it's not all black and white, it's nuanced. Sure. And Josh does tell Max about this comment when he hears about it. But remember, Max has always thought that Josh is just full of himself and thinks everybody wants him. So he's not really buying that. However, Josh is going to go ahead and give it one last good college try with Naomi. Even though, look at that himbo. He didn't go to college. But unfortunately, it is kind of giving like sad, pathetic vibes. And it ends with her basically saying, we'll always like each other, but it would just never work. And then she tells him that he's cute. So he's right back on the hook. Also at night, they play a little shit-stirring game where they read tweets about them. We do have at least one girly on the outside because someone tweeted, how come Naomi gets away with everything and Jess gets grilled for breathing? And Max had to read that one. And then Naomi says, yep, that's fair. I'd say that's fair. Everybody is dead silent. Dead silent. Except Jess, who is, I think, feeling pretty good at that moment. They also say Jordan is playing a game, which I do agree with. As I have said previously, not that there's anything wrong with Zoe. I think she's wonderful. But I don't think Jordan would normally be into her. I think it's more of like a limited resources mentality that might be going on subconsciously. I don't necessarily think he's fully aware he's playing a game, but he kind of is, in my opinion. We also get comments like, glad Josh and Naomi are broken up. He deserves better. And I never thought I'd say this, but Max, you've made the wrong choice pieing Jess. I am so glad the British public gets it. Now, the next night we have a dumping. I think it might have been their day off because we have no footage of that day. They jump straight to the dumping. And this one is based on public vote for favorite islander, and the bottom girl and boy are gone. The girls are Zoe and Naomi, and the boys are Travis and Max. Looks like he might have made a strategy error. She seems to be dragging him down because everybody hates her. Uh-oh. So those four go to the studio area with the host and the live audience to hear the final verdict. And the minute they leave, everybody else in the villa is just praying that Zoe will come back. The boy who will be going home is Travis. Sorry, buddy. And the girl who will be going home is Naomi. Yep. The crowd goes wild. Ah! Actually, yes, they do. The live audience really cheers for this. I mean, she was voted least favorite islander by the British public and also by me, if I could have voted. And then they play her a supercut of everybody talking shit about her, which does feel like overkill. A little hilarious, but overkill. It is absolute mayhem when Zoe and Max get back to the villa. And this is not just any Max, this is newly single Max, who does claim he's thinking about leaving. You spent a singular 24 hours with her. I don't think you need to leave. Meanwhile, John and Hannah are having a little spat because she felt like he didn't reassure her enough during the whole dumping scenario. And Josh actually gives some good advice. I know I'm saying that in a shocked tone, and that's because I'm shocked. He says this environment isn't healthy for girls, which does seem a little sexist. This environment is definitely not healthy for anyone. Girls, guys, whatever. But his point is, sometimes she just needs to vent and you just need to reassure her. Even if you think that she's not correct. In the morning, the producers send Max and Josh on a little beer date together where they bond about liking the same girl, Max thinking that he wanted to marry Naomi 2 days in, and how he couldn't see it being anything more than just fun with Jess, but maybe. After all, he does weirdly like her. So weird because she's so unlikable, but he does. When they get back, Lewis and Callie are then sent off to plan a party for them that night, and this is going to be the Gossip Girl Vitamin Water White party. They do a Kama Sutra game, but Zoe doesn't want to participate because she's kind of having an episode right now. She has remembered that the public are watching after that vote. She's having a full breakdown over public perception. She really regrets having sex on TV, and she's very ashamed of her behavior in the villa, and also annoyed with Jordan because he didn't insist that she not do those things, which doesn't feel like his responsibility, but whatever. She swears that on the outside world, she's not like this. She's a classy, classy girl. And I'm here to tell her that there's nothing wrong with what she did. Jordan doesn't love that she's regretting having sex with him. It is hurtful, but Zoe can't think of anything except her church congregation. They do work it out, and Zoe tells him that she's falling in love with him. And then the next day, they properly talk it out. All good now. And at night, Josh and Max get to have dinner with 3 new girls, but only 2 of them are really relevant, so I'm only going to talk about those. First, we have Poppy, who is 22. This is the girl that they pick. She's some kind of Nepo baby. I don't know, definitely swiping her parents' credit card every which way. She says that she hangs out with celebrities, and she does come in visibly already drunk. What a brat. And I mean that as a compliment. And the other important date is Jasmine, who is Jordan's ex. Yes, the one that he dumped 2 weeks before entering the villa. And he is fully having a panic attack about it, as he probably should, because she is telling anybody who will listen about how he dumped her over text. This is truly a woman scorned. And to add to the mess, apparently when they broke up, Jordan also said that he still loved her and had feelings for her. The only good part is that Zoe is actually completely okay. She's empathetic to both parties and honestly just chilling. And Jordan's ex swears that she's there for herself and she just wants to feel like she has some control over the situation. But she doesn't talk about anything else other than Jordan. And the minute that they ask her if she wants to speak with him, she gets very, very sincere. She is instantly in tears saying, you can never understand how much you've hurt me. How could you dump me by text? You had no good reason for breaking up with me. But he's like, I gave you many reasons. In fact, I broke up with you multiple times. The first time was in person. You just didn't listen. At that point, Girly is looking a little insane. So she goes ahead and storms off. All the other new girls in the selection pool leave, and the boys go and debrief the rest of the villa on their dates. As we know, Poppy stays, and that is because Josh liked her the most. He sees the vision, but Max says he didn't really like any of the other girls. He'd still rather have Jess back. It turns out he likes her more than he thought. And Jess is liking what she's seeing with that behavior, so they do kind of have a thing going again. In the morning, Lewis, who we haven't heard from basically since him and Callie got together, he's been in bliss. But the past few days, he's actually been very moody, which Callie is not loving, to be honest. And Zoe is also not loving that as his friend. He actually is annoyed at Zoe, though, because he thinks her beliefs and actions don't align. Let's just give this girl a break. Just let her live. Do whatever she wants. Why do we need to police her? Anyways, to diffuse the tension, the producers send Callie, Zoe, and Hannah out to get drinks and have girly chats. When they get back, Zoe has a conversation with the Hulk because she feels like he's been kind of distant recently. And he's like, yes, I actually have been a little out of whack. My ex came in here, yelled at me, and then stormed off. So I'm just not feeling at my best. Is that okay? And then we learned that Lauren and Jess will be meeting 5 new men that night. So naturally, everybody is wondering if it's time for Jess to finally give Max a taste of his own medicine, considering all the strife that he's put her through. But she says it's a very low chance because she actually likes him. We have Omar return to be their nude butler for the evening, and then we meet the boys. First we have Ben, who they end up choosing for Lauren. He is 24, and he does a slap drop when he walks in, which Josh calls camp as fuck. But he does say it like he wants to call him a slur, so. In addition to Ben, we have 3 other men, and also the Italian twins again, who obviously don't get picked because nobody wants them around. So like I said, Josh picks Poppy for himself, Lauren picks Ben for her, and Jess and Max pick each other. At this point, Jess is very much giving silly, drunk, girly vibes, and Max is giving funny, cute boyfriend who is also being silly but taking care of her. And as much as I hate to admit it, guys, I can't help but blush and giggle a little bit at it. He's a charmer. And I really hate to admit that. I feel shame right now admitting it. that it's hard not to like him when he makes his comeback. The next morning, the new girl and boy are here, but Josh and Lauren are not nearly as excited as the producers were hoping. Honestly, they couldn't care less. Zero sparks are flying. There is no movement happening in either of those relationships. So to incentivize them, the producers tell Poppy and Ben that they have one day to get picked in the next recoupling or they will be dumped. And they are not allowed to tell anybody that this is the case, which I don't think is really a problem because everybody knows how the show works. That's just how the show works. And they also send them on dates with Lauren and Josh to get the romance going. It barely works. Everybody wants this for Lauren and Josh so bad, but they have become very jaded in here. Then they do an evening challenge where they try to make boats that will sail across the pool, and Lauren and new boy Ben win, so they get a little pool date. It goes okay. But Lauren's really more interested in helping her bestie Callie cope with being in this villa because honestly, she's having a bit of a mentee bee over it. It's just the intensity, 24/7 being around people, the lack of sleep, and her and Lewis are bickering a lot because they're very drained. It's a lot for her, and I get it. I get it. The next day, Jess and Max go on a little horse riding date. Very cute. Max says that he really regrets the whole Naomi thing and that initially he saw Naomi as more of a girlfriend type, but now he's seeing Jess in that light because he actually really likes her. And then when they get back, the Islanders all find out about the recoupling that night, which will be the last one of the season. We really haven't had enough of them. Why are there so many people sitting on the couch with me? John and Hannah stick together. Callie and Lewis finally couple up officially, and he says that she's the love of his life and also that he wants her to be his wife. Wow. Hulk and Zoe are now officially a couple as well. Max and Jess pair up. Lauren chooses Josh, which he accepts wholeheartedly. They want to go besties through the rest of this thing. And then they all find out about Ben and Poppy's secret mission to try and get coupled up with them, which does make Lauren and Josh mad. They're questioning if all of that was fake. But honestly, if they were being fake, I think they would have tried a little harder. And now that he's given a cute recoupling speech and proved himself to Jess, her and Max go into the hideaway for some adult activities. Okay, we have all of our final couples up on the board being my wall. Moving on. That day, they do lie detector tests. Standard disclaimer that these tests are not 100% accurate because it's testing your heart rate, and that can be impacted by tons of different factors that aren't lying. But that's okay. We do it for the drama. And before they even start, John is all worked up because he hates lie detector tests. And I do wonder how many he's taken to have such a strong opinion on them. But anyways, maybe it's just the principle. Fine. He doesn't see this going well for himself. Hannah's not loving this foul mood of his, though. So then they start straight up yelling at each other, fighting, while everybody is just sitting there waiting for the game to start, having to watch them. But they can't yell for too long because, like it or not, he's taken that test. But he passes with flying colors, except for one question about if Hannah loves him. And he's not 100% sure on that, mainly because he has anxiety. So he's kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Been there. There all day, every day, really. But at least he's very clear that he knows that this is his problem. He's just insecure, and it's hard for him to believe that this is real and that things won't go poorly for him. And you know what? That's something that you can work through. I think. I wouldn't know because I haven't gone through it yet. But I hope that's the case. Lewis and Josh do fine. The only real issue that comes up on Jordan's is a question on whether or not he's physically attracted to Zoe. Some people would say that they've done adult activities and that says it all. But those people wouldn't be accounting for the actions of a man on Love Island. Or just men in general. And she knows that she's not his usual type. So she is really chill about it though. But honestly, I say run for the hills, girl. And of course, y'all know Max's goes horrible. Jess just getting to have a good time with a guy who genuinely likes her. That would be too easy. He gets a lie result for saying that he's happy with Jess and also for saying that he would rather be with Jess than Naomi in the hideaway. He's obviously very upset by it, but it's hard to tell if he's upset because he thinks the producers are manipulating it or if he's upset because he got caught. He throws a chair in the pool, throws a plant, has a little minty bee in the interview room. But I will say, he is talking a lot about what other people will think and not a lot about Jess's feelings. At least at the end, he goes and checks in on her and acknowledges that this is more about her feelings right now than it is about his. And her feelings are that she understands and accepts that this is what she got herself into. She accepts that he probably would still be with Naomi if she was here, even if he isn't willing to admit it. And it does hurt my soul, but I will stick with my girl until she realizes she can do better. That night, also, Lewis and Callie get very mad at John because he goes and pulls the covers off of them when they're in bed, and Lewis is fully in the nude. And I do love Callie for this reason. She calls him out immediately and is like, that was not cool, nor consensual, by the way. John tries to say, it's just a joke, laugh it off. It was Lewis, not Callie, so who cares? Like, he's a man, so it should be okay. Lewis and Callie don't back down, though. So, of course, John gets pissed off, but eventually he does apologize. Anyways, that night we have our final dumping based on public vote, and the losers who are going home, Jordan and Zoe. Shocking considering that we have a couple that is fully just friends. But those two are characters. And I think that the public was starting to see what I saw, like the proximity factor and all that, as I have said before. And again, that is nothing against Zoe. She's wonderful and beautiful, but as they have said, not his type. And even the other Islanders say that they don't think that they'll last on the outside. And now we are officially into the last 5 episodes where things usually get boring, but I'm going to speed run us through the interesting moments. Callie and Lewis play beach volleyball against John and Hannah. I don't know much about the game, but I get the impression that they both suck at it. Callie and Lewis win, though, and John throws a fit because he's a sore loser, of course. Also, they all paint pictures of each other, and Lauren and Josh win that challenge. Hannah is struggling emotionally because John is struggling physically, if you get what I mean. And I don't have a medical degree, but I would probably chalk that up to anxiety and sweating in the heat. Hannah's not handling it well, though, because she assumes it's her fault. She gained some weight. She's feeling insecure. From the outside looking in, I want to say, like, you're so beautiful. You're being silly. It's all okay, sweet girl. But if I do some perspective taking, I would be crashing out too, 100%. Josh and Lauren beat Max and Jess in a game of tennis. Jess couldn't care less. This was all just about wearing a cute outfit, and I am right there with her as usual. Then they all do a 3-legged race to see who can get the most steps in. Max and Jess win that one. And at night, they do a quiz challenge that Josh and Lauren win, so they are the ultimate winner of all the different challenges they did, and they get to FaceTime their besties. Oh, and by the way, Josh's best friend tells him that he should have stuck with Jess because she's a top girl, and he is absolutely right. And by nightfall, John and Hannah are also still struggling with this bedroom issue. Hannah wants to talk about it, but John is just feeling tired and drained. So he tells her to leave him alone, which is not the right choice of words. So Hannah goes outside, is crying and smoking a cig. The producers are doing her so wrong, zooming directly in on her crying face. We're all human. Don't do that to us. Who has a cute crying face out there? If you do, I don't want to hear about it. Of course, John comes out. They have a screaming match. He storms off. She cries some more. Eventually, she goes back to bed. He apologizes. They have loud intercourse, and everything is all okay again. The next day, they do a random challenge that's boring, and then we have family visits. So here's the highlights of that. Max's parents are first. He admits that he was gutted when Naomi was voted off, but they confirm that it was all for the best, and she's not giving cute nor sweet from the outside. They also both really like Jess, despite Max's continued jokes about his mom telling him to stay away from her. And his dad actually says that Jess was his favorite the whole time. On the other hand, Jess's mother and grandma are not at all sure about Max, and they actively hate Josh's guts, as they should. Callie and Lewis's families are both big fans. Josh's mom says that Jess was absolutely perfect. Why not choose Jess? And his parents also say that Naomi was sneaky and playing them both. It is a bad PR run for Naomi on parent visit day. Lauren's parents are absolutely precious. John and Hannah's parents are both on board, of course. Yay. Afterwards, all of the Islanders talk shit about Naomi because the parents were all doing it, and they kind of come to the conclusion that maybe Naomi just hated Jess's guts. Like maybe she was the jealous one, not the other way around. And Hannah tells Jess that apparently Max said he's falling for her. It is a good day to be hot mess Jess. Well, as long as she doesn't think about how her grandmother and mother were very lukewarm on him. The next morning, they all get fake babies to take care of in their couples, and they name them Brian, Ocean, Jamal, and Pretzel. The craziest part about that list is that Ocean will probably be a more common name than Brian in about 5 years. It's not all fun and games, though, because anybody who fails this baby challenge will not get to go to Lauren's birthday party that night. But mostly everybody rises to the occasion, except Josh, who actively wants to punt this child and swears that he will be using protection from here on out. I think Lewis and Callie should have definitely won that challenge. Instead, Hannah and John are the winners. They were robbed, for sure, but everybody does pass, except Josh and Lauren. But since Lauren obviously has to attend her own birthday party, Josh is spared, and they all get to go. At the party that night, Max and Jess make it official, boyfriend and girlfriend, and then they romantically kiss while Skyscraper plays in the background, which instantly took me out of it because anytime I hear that song, I can only picture Demi singing it to the ghost. But anyways, now it's time for the last day and the finale. The girls go buy wedding dresses, none of which fit them correctly, which does make me mad for them. The boys write vows, and then they have a commitment ceremony. So lots of sappiness. And then John gets down on one knee. I am being so for real right now, guys. He fully proposes. I wanted y'all to be surprised, but he's working through the details of it this entire episode. Step one, of course, goes without saying, is to tell Josh, who is like, okay, well, you're fully insane, but go for it. Then he asks Hannah's parents. They say yes. And finally, she says yes. They are engaged. And it's time for the finale. Omar is, of course, there to celebrate with us. They just can't let this man go. And I am sure he appreciates the publicity, probably. And now, let's find out the winners. Lock in your guesses right away. 3, 2, 1. The winners are Jess and Max. Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled for my girl. Couldn't care less about Max. Thrilled for my girl, Jess. In second place, newly engaged John and Hannah. In third place, Josh and Lauren, besties on top. And in fourth place, Callie and Lewis, which is wild because they are the only ones who made it long term. They had a kid together, guys. I don't think they're still together, but they do have a child. Oh, and I realized I never took down Zoe and Jordan. Whatever, they made it far enough, but I guess they are fifth place in a sense. Then we get the money envelopes, which I did realize I completely left out of the South Africa video, but I'm not leaving it out now. They both choose love. Yay for Max and Jess! And that's that on that. The video is done. I have officially tubed to you for probably 2 hours, maybe more. So if you enjoyed it, please like or comment or both if you're gorgeous. And you're welcome to comment anything that you would like me to talk about in the future. Y'all may or may not know I have a couple things already on the docket, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives being one of them. And if you want to see me again, please subscribe. Bye.